right, everybody, here we go. Today is Wednesday, Hump Day, April 15th, 2026. It's tax day. Get your checks written to the IRS. They've been doing such great things at the federal level. The least you can do is send them your hard-earned money. Good morning,
That's
Isaiah.
it.
You feeling better, brother?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Had a little bit of vertigo this morning, but my wife took me up to our office. She's a chiropractor. She gave me an adjustment, and I feel a tons better. So it's a miracle for real.
It's a great endorsement. Got a lot of
Yeah.
things I want to get through today. We have two stories, one guest. We have two stories. We're going to start with a story that I think is widely underreported around America, and there are many different theories as to what went down,
Yeah.
but it is the story of MMTLP. If you recognize the story, great. If you don't, let me give you just a little bit of a background on it. Very complicated unless you're a veteran in the stock market. So I want to roll it out nice and slow that people have some understanding of what went down. It's complicated for me, and I've studied it for quite some time. But the reality of it is you have a company called Metamaterials that was a privately held company, right? And then you have another company, Next Bridge Hydrocarbons, I think it was called, that was on NASDAQ. They did a reverse merger, if that matters to anybody, if they understand what's going on there. And the stock began to, well, it wasn't a stock originally, but Metamaterials begins to trade on the over-the-counter markets. So I want to talk about that story here in just a bit. We're going to lay everything out for people. The reason it's interesting to me is I had a constituent in Missouri. So when I was doing the radio show, one of our listeners reached out to me. I was driving through Florida. I was actually going to Mar-a-Lago. We had an event down there. Ran through.
Oh, wow.
So I was heading down to Mar-a-Lago. This guy calls me, and Isaiah, I've told you before, you get 100 and something messages every day. People just want you to talk about the information.
Yep.
Exciting to them, and you end up being overloaded. You can't get to everybody, and they hate you because you're not talking about things that are important to them.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, he made an impression on me. I'm driving back in, and I call him up, and I say, "Okay, man, what is the story?" And he starts to explain it to me. And to be honest with you, I didn't fully understand it. I'm not somebody who lives and dies with the stock market.
Yeah.
It's just my nature. I'm just not that familiar with the stock market. I put my money in 401ks and IRAs and that kind of walk away. Okay. So I began to conversation with him. His name's Glenn, and I really liked him. So I wanted to get the story out there, and he kept explaining it to me, and it started to make a little bit more sense. I brought in one of the CEOs. This guy's name is John Berta. He just happens to be from St. Louis. He went to CBC High School where my boys went. So there's a little bit of a connection there, and I wanted
Berta Electric?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. Could be a small world.
BRDA? Is it BRDA?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe
They go to my church.
I'm sure he's paying attention.
Yeah.
And so I start to get the story. He comes on the show, gives me a full hour. I can ask him whatever I want. And that always makes sense to me that those people are being honest because, Isaiah, I have a reputation of this person who's going to get to the bottom of things one way or another because I have that itch to find the truth. So as I started bringing the story out to everybody, you have these other people online who are just hammering me. They're like, "Oh, this guy just wants clicks. He's trying to hold on to the story." And I'm like, hey, dummies. I'm in Missouri radio. My advertisers are local. They don't really care about MMTLP. I'm telling the story because, as I'm being told, 65,000 investors lost their investment.
Yep.
It's 200 military members. 2 have committed suicide. This has been going through elected representatives for 3.5 years for these people to try and get some resolution to their loss of money, loss of their investment.
Wow.
We're talking about big money, 65,000 people. Some people lost $500,000 or more. It's a big deal only because
life savings.
What it says about the stock market and how it actually works. I was unaware. Have you heard the term naked short selling? Are you aware of this?
No, short selling, but now they're adding other words onto the front of it now.
Naked short selling in a nutshell, as I understand it, is when these brokerages begin to sell stocks that they don't have. Like short selling is one thing, but naked short selling basically is counterfeit selling. You're selling stocks that you don't have. I compare it to a Ponzi scheme, but maybe I'm not that smart. People go, "No, it's not really a Ponzi scheme." It feels like a Ponzi scheme to me. It basically means you're diluting the stock because you're selling stocks that you don't have into the marketplace. Okay. So that's the beginning. I want to play a few clips just to set this whole thing up. The reason I asked for people in St. Louis, people around the country who are listening to the show every day to pay attention, This is about representative government for me. So for the people, the naysayers that say you should be going after the two CEOs, George Palikaris, I think is his name, and John Berta, they're the one that scammed the investors out. Listen, I don't think that's the case. That's not the way I understand it.
Yeah.
I'll bring these people on to have a conversation with me who disagree. All I can tell you is there is supposed to be a regulatory body, FINRA, which is a private organization that at the SEC oversees, the Securities and Exchange Commission. They oversee FINRA, but FINRA,
Interesting.
and I've had several people on to describe how FINRA works. FINRA is a private organization, and they're basically made up of the people that are thieving. So how soon do you think you're going to get to the bottom of it? Right?
Never.
That, as I understand it. And I tried to get Ann Wagner. So if you're listening from St. Louis or the Missouri area, I tried to get Congresswoman Ann Wagner on to discuss this with me. I got to her people, got to her chief of staff, and it never materialized. She just sent me back, or her staff did, saying that it was under investigation. Well, I ask everybody in the audience, if you had your money evaporate on something that you invested in, how long do you think it should take for you to get some answers about your investment? It's been 3.5 years, and here we are. I just say swift justice is not 3.5 years. If you lose your entire life savings, something has to come to fruition within 3.5 years. 2 administrations, and nothing is happening. Now they have a letter. We'll talk about that here in a bit. I've been dealing with the people that are kind of getting out the MMTLP, if you will, some of the major players in this operation.
So there's been no arrests,
Nope.
because I'm not super privy to this, as we've talked about.
There's been no anything. There's been no anything.
And
The two
that's crazy
CEOs,
because there's so many other situations that have happened similar, and people get arrested.
and there's the two CEOs, I guess, are under some form of investigation, or they're being sued, or what have you. But John Berta in particular is the one who's the most open. I've met with John Berta a couple times. He seems like a very honest person to me. Again, who knows? I'm just telling you, my dealings with him have been very straightforward. He'll answer any questions. He'll come on and talk. He is very open with me, which makes me think that he's probably being honest about what he has to say, or otherwise, why would he put himself through the effort? Okay, let's start with a couple clips just to get everybody up and running on the story. This guy's name is Mike Crapo. He is a senator from Idaho, and I wrote down Ohio, but I still remember it as Idaho. What is wrong with me? I got to tell you.
You also said the lady's name from the SEC was Heather, and I think it's Hester.
Hester Peirce. You're right. Did I say Heather?
Yeah, you typed it, I think, to me one time. I was.
Oh, good Lord. We'll get through it. We'll get through it together. Okay.
Hey, Rob gets up early. For anyone who doesn't know, he gets up early and starts on the show. So sometimes the text comes super early.
Well, I'm not up yet. I haven't had my cup of coffee yet. This is 4 hours yesterday. I was on the phone with a guy that goes by Busy Brands online. I don't know if he wants his name out there. He goes by Busy Brands, and he always reminds me of things that are going on. He keeps me up to speed. There's another lady who goes by Junk Savvy on X, and she tries to keep me up to speed as what's going on. That's and then great. A guy by the name of Squatch on X, who is I communicate with all these people quite regularly just to get an update on the story. Okay. Yep. So let's just start so people understand what's happening here. So this is a conversation with Senator Mike Crapo, who's a senator talking to the SEC chair at the time in the Biden administration, a guy by the name of Gary Gensler. And people had been pounding people in Washington, D.C. to get some answers. So it got to this guy, Mike Crapo, senator from Idaho, and he begins to ask Gary Gensler about the story. And I would ask people to listen, and you tell me whether you think Gary Gensler and even the story that he's telling makes any sense to you whatsoever. When people are lying, it's kind of easy sometimes when it's important to recognize that they're full of, I don't want to curse, full of it, if you understand what I'm saying. Okay. Clip number 5, MMTLP, Mike Crapo, senator from Idaho, with Gary Gensler, SEC chairman. Check this out.
I'm going to focus my questions this morning on what you described as the fact that one of your roles as being the cop on the beat to protect investors. I've heard from many Idahoans how they've been impacted by the troubling trading halt of the metamaterials, or MMTLP, investors across the country share these same concerns. They have a lot of questions about what happened, the inability to sell the stock, and potential IRS implications. And to get answers about what happened, they've sent letters and made Freedom of Information requests of the SEC, and I believe FINRA as well. And as of this point, I don't think we have the full response. and you know that my office has engaged to get answers as well. Can you confirm that the SEC is reviewing the trading halt from December 2022, and will you commit to publicly releasing the SEC's findings on this investigation?
Let me just sort of step back. FINRA
How about that guy?
is
Wow.
separate from the SEC, and they have a set of rules. They're organized, and those rules are approved by the SEC after public comment.
His hands
They
make me
then,
uncomfortable.
Move forward and implement their rules. The matter that you raised around metamaterials, if I recall the name of it, in December of 2022, if I recall. Under FINRA's rules, they sought trading halt. They didn't seek the SEC's advice or permission on that. That is something that they did separately in that matter.
So is the SEC not investigating these actions at all?
The SEC's role is to investigate many things in the capital markets. We don't speak to specific investigations, but we do,
Can you pause it?
on a regular
course.
basis, examine FINRA for compliance.
Think of what he's saying here, right? So just because what people like to do is they like to twist and turn, and it's process, and it's this, and it's that. This is a government of, by, and for the people. I try to remind people of that every day. 65,000 regular investors, everyday people just like me and you, Isaiah, who invest in the marketplace, who think their money is being protected by regulatory bodies. What he's describing is FINRA, a private organization, makes their own rules that are approved by the SEC, but if FINRA rips somebody off, it's under investigation. And they don't even tell you whether it's under investigation. Now, I would just ask, how does that benefit? Now, maybe that's a rule, but I would ask, why is that a rule? Isn't that a rule to protect the institution itself? Because why would you make the statement that it's not under investigation for the people that lost their money? So they can maybe it is under investigation, maybe it's not, but the whole thing is just absolutely ridiculous. It is theft, it is fraud of retail investors, and until something is done about it, it's going to continue. Go on.
Compliance with their rules and examine them on a regular basis on whether they're following their own rules as put out to public comment.
And are you examining their process and their compliance with their own rules with regard to MMTLP?
We regularly examine, because they're such an important part of the capital markets, we examine them annually, I think. Part of our division of examination has a whole unit that examines FINRA on a regular basis.
Well, I don't know whether this question relates to you or FINRA or both, but the investors have asked for the aggregated audited share count for the MMTLP and for the blue sheet data to ascertain whether MMTLP shares were subject to counterfeit and naked short selling. Have FINRA and the SEC analyzed MMTLP for any potential fraud or wrongdoing?
We seek to analyze fraud and wrongdoing wherever it might be in our capital markets, and certainly we're well aware of these matters, but I can't speak about specific possible investigations or even confirm or deny whether we have them, because it protects the markets. When we sometimes close an investigation and we don't find something, but certainly we could follow staff about the specific questions about data.
All right. Am I hearing you say, though, I do believe I'm hearing you say that there could be an investigation underway, but you can't give data about it. But if there is an investigation underway into these matters, and if that investigation finds answers, is that information not going to be made available to the public?
We only make information as a result of any investigation public if we either settle or bring charges in competent courts. And that really helps protect the public and protects individuals when we don't bring charges.
Well, then how are investors and, frankly, Congress to know whether you have even undertaken such an investigation or whether such an investigation has resulted in any outcome?
Again, part of, I think, the trust in our capital markets is being a cop on the beat, but also when we close investigations that do not result in either litigation or a settlement, that's really between those various registrants or market participants, that it's been closed, and they have a right to say if it's been closed or not.
Thank you, Senator Crapo. You can follow up, obviously, with written questions.
I see that
How
my
about that?
time has
That's good.
expired. I
Wow.
will be following up with you.
Now, what is
on
your
this
take,
issue.
Isaiah? Because you've never seen that before. You're a very bright guy. When you look at that, do you see deception going on there?
Yeah, I mean, anytime, I think going back to what you were saying earlier, the fact that they just can't come out and say, and like you said, maybe there's some rule that they have, that's some arbitrary rule or some policy or something within the SEC where they can't say that they're investigating someone for whatever reasons. I can understand maybe there's a live stock out there that's still trading and it's under investigation and they don't want to.
This is completely gone off the market.
Yeah. And so I'm just saying I could understand, like, if that's the reason there's that policy in place, you know what I mean? But if this is off the market, not being traded, I don't see any reason why you can't say there's an investigation. And I think about the police when you ask them specifics about a case and all they can say is it's under investigation.
Correct.
Right.
Which is what I was told, by the way. So when he says he doesn't know if it's under investigation, the representative from Missouri, Ann Wagner, told me it was under investigation. That's why she couldn't comment on it.
Okay.
And I just ask, I just beg of people, we don't really have representative government anymore. And you had better figure out at some point how dangerous that is. I don't know how many different ways to say it. I'm involved in it. I certainly don't want to believe that, but you really don't have representative government the way we thought we once had. And there you have a situation where if you don't pressure your government, if they don't fear you, and I don't mean fear of, well, I don't even know what I mean by that. They have to fear you. When they're walking through the supermarkets and when they're getting in line at the store and when they're getting out of a taxi and they have to feel the anger of society. I'm not talking about a violent revolution, but I'm talking about you cannot be comfortable in society if society recognizes you are pulling the wool over their eyes, lying and cheating and stealing them out of their money while governing them under false pretense, which is rigged elections, which is, we'll have Jen Olson. She is running for St. Charles County election director of elections in St. Charles County. We're going to have her on.
I'm excited about that.
I can't wait to hear from her because, you know, there's very few people that have the cojones to fight this system.
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand why. I really don't. I don't know where all the fear comes from. This has to be a group effort in order to get things done. That's why I like MMTLP.
I think a lot of people have political careers that they're trying to, outline. And so what we talked about yesterday, it was yesterday or maybe Monday, where we were talking about how that you get into the fold and then you realize I'm not going to be able to make any impact unless I sell out to all these people.
I think that's it in a nutshell. That's my take on what I've seen. It doesn't mean there are good people involved in it, but that doesn't mean that every person has the spirit.
We know great people that are involved.
Absolutely. It just means that you don't have the spirit to get things done. You know, when you are going to change your government because you recognize it's corrupted to the core, you got to have some balls. You got to stand up and tell people that we don't really.
That's why we loved Trump in his first term. That's
why everybody got excited about him, is because he was going after his own party. I don't understand why in the state of Missouri and around the country, the people within the party don't call out their party. It's very bizarre. Even the candidates who say, well, there's too many rhinos, we're coming to get them. Then they just kind of just fall into the party atmosphere and they fall into the party organizations. They fall into the party mouthpieces. They fall into the party media outlets. And from that point forward, I'm like, well, I don't need you to play cloak and dagger to get into a position of power. What I need you to do is stand up in front of your party and tell them they suck and they need to get their act together in order to get things done. That's what I want to see from every politician in the state of Missouri and around the country. And I'm going to drive. I've said this before. Now that I'm unshackled by radio, I'm going to drive these people crazy. I have a big enough voice in the state of Missouri, right? I don't need anything. I don't need anything but me, right? All I need is me and the group of People's Lobby Missouri supporters. And we can get out in front of just about everybody.
The audience that's watching right now. That's it.
And apply pressure. The whole operation is about pressure. You cannot fix a system that is rigged by both parties, and they have a media outlet, and they control the currency, and they control the borders, and they control everything. The only way, and I'm speaking to my MMTLP people, I'm begging you, it's very difficult to get these things passed through law and investigations and this, and that, and the other, because it's all charades. 3.5 later is now the person that you may be able to get some resolution from is Donald Trump. And as I understand it, Donald Trump, through people that we can get in front of, has a letter in his hand. He's got a letter in the executive branch that he can sign that would create an investigation to find out what happened, what is the share count, what is going on, were there naked shorts sold, was this a planned operation? Because there is information that suggests that the SEC and FINRA are aware of it and we're in collaboration. Okay, let's move on to this. This is clip number 4. This is Hester Peirce, not Heather Peirce. I apologize for that. This is Hester Peirce, SEC, on Fox News with Charles Payne. Now, Charles Payne, for the most part, I'm not a fan of Fox News. If there's somebody that does something good on there, I like to see it because, generally speaking, I think it's just absolute, unadulterated, nonsensical propaganda that hurts my heart that I used to watch it for 20 years like an insane person. But once I started to wake up and realize how their methods worked, I can't even watch it on my TV for 5 seconds. I used to watch it just to tell, I get the clips, Isaiah. But I started
watching it in the morning so that I could see what the mainstream. Just yesterday morning, I just started pulling it up because I said, okay, now I have to figure out what's going on in the mainstream media because I don't know.
Well, Fox News is a Zionist organization that wants to create war, right? Raise money off of issues that never get solved. You would think people that have been watching it long enough, because the baby boomers continue to watch that insanity. And I keep thinking, at what point do somebody just knock on your head and go, they've been saying the same thing for 26 years and they haven't solved anything at all, ever, not once. Everything that you were afraid of in 2000 is still available to you in 2026. They solve absolutely no problems. And at some point you just have to go, maybe they're really not a news source. Maybe they're a propaganda outlet for the establishment. Maybe. Just maybe.
Modernization Act.
Yes, exactly. Smith Modernization Act. Look it up if you don't know what it is. Clip number 4. This is of MMTLP. This is Hester Peirce on the Charles Payne Show, Fox News. Check it out.
Gotten so large and so big, but let me ask you about this case, this MMTLP, which apparently the company was poised to offer a preferred dividend and the next bridge hydrocarbon. And about 4 days before all of this was going to start to go down, the stock was abruptly halted, then delisted. Investors' money have been frozen. There have been major complaints about fraud, the way the stock was traded. Apparently, there are transcripts between FINRA and the SEC that reveal maybe even regulators were aware of all of this. So how do you explain the injustice of this case?
I think the big issue that and I've certainly heard those concerns, and I think the big issue that we need to take from this is we need to do a better job communicating about what happens when certain actions happen in the market.
What happens with this particular case? Will they release the FINRA blue sheets for MMTLP? I mean, can we get a sort of post-mortem right now? People are talking about this. People say my money is frozen, that they see this as a deliberate attempt once again to derail regular investors.
Well, again, when people are having issues like that, I do encourage you to contact the SEC and let us know.
SEC. Hester, that's why
what a joke.
Please help us out
greatest.
here. I mean, this is the runaround. Listen, we were promised dark pools, pay for order flow. All of these things have been thrown up as the things that could be changed for the last 3 years. Are you waiting for individual investors to lose interest, to lose all of their money? They're not going to do either of those things, and still, it's the waiting game. The complaints have been filed.
This is the Fox News we need.
Complaints?
He's one of the good ones.
I mean, there's one thing dealing with current issues, which, again, I urge people to write in. It sometimes does take some time to sort through these issues, but we do take those inquiries seriously. In terms of the policy issues that you raised, I think we have to level set here, and I do believe that our equity market structure works quite effectively now for retail investors. Now, are there changes that we can make? Absolutely. Should we look at what those changes are? Absolutely. But we have to do things in a deliberate manner so that we don't break things along the way and end up with a worse market structure. We actually now have no commission environment. We have the ability for people to trade very much more easily and cheaply than they ever have before, and I don't want to lose that.
Yeah, well, listen, I would rather pay a commission not to be ripped off in a different kind of way.
And I get an amen.
So, and you sound like a hedge fund brochure when you say that. That's not the Hester that came on.
So good.
And there are certainly options for people who would prefer to pay commissions. I want to make sure that we have lots of different options in our market so that people who want commissions can pay commissions, people who don't have to.
All right, Hester, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much, and
Thanks
hope to
for
hear
having
from you
me
again soon. Thanks. All right, folks.
All right, Isaiah, you're hearing all this for the first time. Again, you're a very bright person. When you look at that, do you see deception?
Yes. I mean, if you have Fox News bringing on someone from the SEC and they're pressing them like that. I don't see that happening too often unless it's a Democrat on
Correct.
Fox News. You know what I mean? And
Correct.
so
Well,
typically they're friendly to the administration or people in the administration and things like that. And so,
well, he understands the markets very well. This is the problem this entire story has, is that people who are not experts in the market really don't understand all of the gyrations of this particular story. It's very difficult to follow, but also very simple.
Yeah.
Right. So if you get into the weeds, which I tell people, that contact me about MMTLP, I said, if you want a broader story, if you want to get it out to more people, I know you guys all know about it, and you can get deep into the weeds, and we got letters, and you got, flow charts, and you start talking about things that most people don't understand. Just recognize this. You were defrauded by a private industry, FINRA, that is aligned and pays off many of the people that you need in representative government to get things done. You have the SEC, which is actually an organization that you should be able to rely upon, and they're not even really doing anything with FINRA. They look at them and go, "Oh, we can all get our money together, and we can just rip you off, and nothing's going to happen."
It reminds me of the FDA with
COVID.
the FDA with approving drugs. I don't know if you know anything about the Sackler family and the
whole
I do. The opioid crisis and how they were in cahoots, and they were going to pass that 80 milligram oxycodone pill and
killed 1 million people or more.
Yeah, and then
they paid a fine. They paid. So I think they made an untold amount of billions. This is what's going to happen here. I think. Made billions of dollars off of it. Right. Yeah. So they made billions of dollars. Then they paid a fine to the same people they were in bed with. It'd be like me giving my money to my son and going, "Hey, I'm sorry I did that to you, kid. I'm going to keep the 12 billion. I'm going to give you $2 billion. Let's call it even. We'll say everybody that you paid a fine, and they'll go $2 billion. That's a lot." But they were selling synthetic heroin into the market for a decade. I mean, it's just the craziest thing in the world. And I had a lot of people. I had 2 people in my family die from it. So wow, that's how important it is to me. All right, let's move on, because I want to get into the Trump administration for a minute. Okay, so this is Chair Paul Atkins. He also went on the Charles Payne Show. Very short clip, but I want you to see this in sequence so you can begin to see how these people are operating. This is the SEC chairman, Security and Exchange Commission chairman Paul Atkins on the Charles Payne Show. And I would ask you, does it look like he's getting to the bottom of this? Clip number 3.
And I've had politicians who've come on the show and talked about this, is MMTLP. This is a community that feels like something really awful happened to them December 5th, 2022, and that nothing has been done about it, even though they've been pleading with Washington, D.C., every branch of government, and specifically the SEC.
Well, I'm on the job here 6 months, so we're getting 2 things, and I can't talk about any specific issues, but suffice it to say that we're out to protect investors and to make sure that they are not taken advantage of.
So maybe we'll hear something on that in the future.
We'll see. Yes.
Yeah, we'll see.
People are hurting on that one. Okay, real world asset.
Now again, I would ask,
confident answer there.
I would again ask, does it look like the people that are supposed to be regulating the markets, does it really look like they are interested in solving this problem? Think about what it would look like. All right. Let's say you go to a ball game, say you go to a St. Louis Cardinals ball game. All right. When the stands are packed, it's 45,000 people. So you look at that amount of people, add 20,000 to it. They had their investment ripped off in broad daylight. They're looking for answers. They want to know if naked short selling played a role in this. They want to understand the aggregated share count, and their government and the people that regulate the markets are basically saying, F you, it's under investigation until you guys run out of steam. That's exactly what they're doing. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
That is exactly what they're doing. You can see it. It's very obvious when you watch these people, if you have any sense of body language and any sense of common sense at all, right? I mean, you would agree with that, wouldn't you, just by what you're watching? Now, let's move to this guy. His name is Ralph Norman. Now, Ralph Norman takes the side that is, this is why I say where the scrap comes from. You have the people with MMTLP that are just looking for basic information from their government, basic information, basic investigations to find out what happened to their money, and they want some reconciliation. Now you have the other side of it who says these are just dopey investors. They didn't understand the rules. They're just so stupid. It was really the CEOs that scammed them and blah, 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 blah. Okay.
That's what I'm even seeing in our chat. Some people, we got some people here saying the same things.
They're intense. And I keep asking them, here's what I'd like to do. I need somebody from MMTLP who would like to be a spokesperson. We need somebody from the opposite side. I'll officiate the argument, and let's see where it comes out, and let the audience decide. Because what I don't understand about the people that are the naysayers, why are they still involved in the conversation 3.5 years later
What's their motivation?
What's the motivation? Just explain
Yeah.
that to us. What is the motivation for you to try to be a propagandist against getting the information that these people want? Maybe you're right. Maybe the CEOs were just horrible. Don't you think 3.5 years is long enough for people to find out what the scoop is?
Yeah.
What is the amount of time that you think is okay? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? At what point do you say, you know what? I agree with these people. They should at least have an understanding of whether naked short selling played a role in this. They should at least be able to understand how this whole thing played out, because they did have their money stolen or frozen, whichever one you choose, whichever, I guess, angle you want to look at. Right?
Whichever side you're on, right?
Yep. So this is OAN, another is it One American News? OAN?
One American News Network.
One American News Network. So this is, I don't know who the broadcaster is, but he is dealing with Ralph Norman. He is a House rep from South Carolina, where all of the great House reps come from, just like Lindsey Graham, the senator. They're all the good ones are from South Carolina, and I say that with dripping sarcasm. I don't know what goes on in South Carolina, but every rep that comes from South Carolina sucks terribly. I don't understand. I just don't know what's going on in South Carolina. It is demon possessed. It has the worst public figures in all of politics. It is just an atrocious place. So when Ralph Norman comes out and says this, and I find out he's from South Carolina, I'm like, well, that makes perfect sense. Check it out. This is Ralph Norman on OAN. Now he's blaming the CEOs.
Letters that you signed along with, I think, 70 other members. But I guess thousands of vets invested back in 2021 or something called MMTLP. It's a merger of two different companies. Then trading was halted before anybody was allowed to move or maneuver things around, and everybody lost all their money. Their life savings, and they've asked the SEC to get involved. They've asked you and Congress to get involved.
This is started in 2020.
Yep.
We had Torchlight, which was a company that was going under. It was a oil drilling company. They've concocted this so-called merger. They had properties that were not rendering revenue. The stock was under $1, and so they were going to be delisted. So the bottom line, the CEO's, Berna was his name, concocted a merger. Worthless properties that the stockholders got taken. And here's the good news. The SEC has fined Meta, which is one of the research companies that merged with Torchlight, $1 million. Okay. And they got charges against the two CEOs. The two CEOs sold worthless stock on preferred stock for $137 million. Their bonuses that they took from the shareholders right before they basically went under. The good news is SEC has brought charges against these two CEOs. Unfortunately, the wheels of government work slow.
Yeah.
I feel for the people who lost their money.
I went online last week on one of those spaces live on X. I got emails saying veterans have committed suicide, veterans have lost their homes, veterans have lost their kids' college funds. And this was all because two greedy CEOs. And again, $1 million fine is nothing for these guys when they get huge balloon payments, like millions and millions of dollars.
They lied about the values. They couldn't sell it for years. It's a shell game, sham game, and I think the two CEOs ought to share jail time, and I think they will after all this is said and done. The money is gone. It never was in the beginning.
Those CEOs know where the money's at. Maybe they could pay them back.
They've got their bonuses.
I know Eli Crane was on board. He's a vet, and some other members of the House.
We're going to stay on top of it. Again, it was a shell game to begin with. Two CEOs pulled it off, and we're going to try to hold them accountable.
Thank you, Ralph. MMTLP.
Now, my gut feeling after watching that is not to trust Ralph Norman. I just don't trust him. It doesn't ring true. The money is gone.
Yeah.
If the accusation is true from the MMTLP side of the argument, they shut down trading 2 days early. So what does that have to do with anything?
Yep.
Where's their investment? Where did it go? Right? The whole thing needs regulation, and the problem is they're hiding information. So let's go to some.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised. I know he was also saying. Sorry, I just thought this just popped in my head. Is that he said, "Oh, these CEOs got these bonuses right before, so it's their fault." But couldn't that be if the regulating body is the one who's colluding? Wouldn't that be something that they would try to capitalize on to make it look like the CEOs it's their fault instead of, you know? I don't know.
Be curious to see what the people that are involved have to say, because the people that are involved on the MMTLP side are so into it. I mean, they're spending their entire lives trying to figure out how to get resolution for these people. And I was going to say earlier, the reason this story is important to me, number one, I had a listener that I became close with. Then I started to understand the story. You have Ann Vandersteel, who spoke out about this story. She actually did a press conference in Washington, D.C. to try to bring awareness to it.
She's great.
Yep. So you have Laura Logan that has brought attention to it. You have Charles Payne that have brought attention to it. It just seems to me, based on what I understand about the government in this state and in this country, is that you can't get resolution for anything for the people. Nothing. You can get nothing fixed. Everybody knows that there's something going on with our election system. If you're an MMTLP and you want to find out why you can't get anything done, it might be because the people that are representing you, in theory, aren't really representing you. You should think about that. You people at MMTLP need to understand that it is bigger than just MMTLP. You're not even picking your leaders. So why would they give anything about what you have to say when they're being installed? It's theater going on in DC. You have to recognize that. When Jen Olson comes on at the top of the hour, we'll talk about the elections. I'll play some clips for you. I got this guy named Mark Cook coming to an event for us where he says everything within the electronic voting systems can be hacked. Everything, all the way down to the flash drives, the tabulators, the machines, everything can be hacked. So do you think in America, where we have $6 trillion going to the federal government, or $4 to $6 trillion going into the federal government, do you think people with power might want to hack the systems to make sure that their leaders get in positions of power so they can keep their thievery going on? Do you think that might be the case? Would it just make sense that that's the case? Why do you think every country in the world goes through it, but it couldn't possibly happen in America? Why do people believe that, Isaiah? Make it make
I don't know.
Because I can't understand it. It aggravates me. Okay, I'm going to be in a good mood today, though. I promise.
Yeah, it's the complex of, we're better than them, I think, and so we're not going. It's the same thing about how the Iraq War. It's like, oh, those are, they're back in the Stone Ages. They're saying that, Trump just said they're putting Iran back to the Stone Ages, right? But it's like, oh, they're terrorists. They're bad, and so it's just the appearance of what they.
Yeah, it's the constant repetition of this. We're a different kind of country. Nobody that couldn't possibly
happen here.
Couldn't happen here. Okay. Well, it's happening here. I mean, we're watching it happen here, so we need to be aware of that. All right, let's move into, if you don't mind, let's see here. I think it's number 1. This is Devin Nunes.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, so let's just read through some of this, and if you can, just put it on the full screen so we can kind of walk through it just a little bit.
Yeah, let me share that. This is the SEC document, right?
Yeah, and I want to scroll through it all the way down.
Absolutely.
So Devin Nunes is calling out naked short selling in this letter that he is writing. I believe it's to the SEC. When you pull it up, it'll come to mind.
There you go.
Okay. So this is Nunes, I believe. Is that from Nunes? Is that the one?
The Honorable Chairman, dear Chairman, let's see. Sincerely, Devin Nunes. Yep.
Yeah, so this is Devin Nunes. Now he's talking about one of Trump's stocks. I think it's DJT with a money sign.
TMTG.
Right? There it is.
DJT. Yep.
DJT. Now what he's saying is that naked short selling is driving his stock price down, right? That there's some nonsense going on within that stock. All right. This is the same argument that our people at MMTLP are making. And this is Devin Nunes, right, from California, on behalf of the Donald Trump organization, saying the exact same thing as the MMTL people are saying, that there's naked short selling going on and we need to pay attention to it. Now scroll it down just a little bit. You can go through that all the way through that, but we don't necessarily need to read it. Now let's get to here. This next one. Now this here is a letter where the MMTLP people were so irate about having their money taken from them, frozen, however you want to look at it, that they put a letter into Congress and they wanted a full investigation. So if you can roll through, just so people understand, this isn't like some fly-by-night and bunch of nonsense. This is a big story in the financial world. Look at all the people that signed this. 74 House reps signed this bill.
Wow.
Look at that. Nice and slow so everybody can see it.
Oh, yeah. So you can read them too.
Yeah. Just let people read them.
Here and who's not.
Let them digest it. Right. So when they got the information, they said, we need to look into this just a little bit further. Right. And 74 people signed it. You know who didn't sign it, though? If you're in Missouri, Ann Wagner didn't sign it. And she chairs, I believe it's called the Financial Services Committee. You'd want her to sign it. But I believe Ann Wagner makes a ton of, I'm just guessing. I might be able to look into this just a little bit later. I think she makes a chunk of cash from the banks in Missouri. So why would she want to mess with this when her golden goose are the banks, the hedge funds, and the brokers? And then you'd have to slap the wrist of the hedge funds, the brokers, and the people that, in my opinion, the people that donate to her, if you will, donate. Okay. Okay.
Man.
So this is
There
the
we go.
story right here. This is what's going on. Let me go to this FOIA release because this is very interesting. I got to be able to read this because when I printed it out, it was very difficult for me to read. But this is Freedom of Information Act request, right? So people within the MMTLP story said, we want to get some documents. We want to play these out. It's number 7 if you want to get that up. And so now we find out from Freedom of Information Act releases that there was collusion going on between FINRA and the SEC. It's right there in black and white. You can see the emails going back and forth. And they published these emails. Everybody now knows that it was going. It's kind of like Jeffrey Epstein, right? You start to recognize what's happening because of the email trail that's going back and forth. Same story here. You can look at it and read it and recognize that FINRA and the SEC are collaborating with one another. And here we are 3.5 years later where our Congress and people that are supposed to protect investors, I guess it's under investigation still. I'm sure that there's going to be a huge press conference any day now where they're going to come to some investigative end to this story, but I doubt it.
This is a document you said?
Yeah, I think it's clip number 7.
It's not a video?
Number 7. No, it shouldn't be a video, I don't think.
Just
if
clip
it's
number
not 7. If it's not 7, it should be 6, but I've got it as FOIA email release.
Let me see here.
It should be under MMTLP.
Sorry, everyone. I was running slow because of my vertigo this morning.
You don't need to apologize.
I was let's see here. Maybe I didn't get it uploaded, but I can share it here on the website. So here we go. We'll just share my screen instead. Apologies, everyone. I'm usually prepared.
I'm going to try. If I can, let me see if I can blow this up. Might be able to do it with my camera. If I can read it, I will.
Nope. Here we go. Got it.
Got it? Okay.
Yep. Here's the whole post.
And I was going to say, if you can, let's try to blow it up a little bit so people can see it.
Yep.
So I can see who to and from, and then what they're talking about.
Is this the X post you're saying?
Yeah, it was the next post.
All right. Here we go. Is this the right one?
Nope. That's Lara Logan.
Okay.
That should have been 6 if it wasn't.
I think that was labeled as 7. Let me see. Oh, no. This is 7. I see. Oh. It's because of how Gmail sent it. I apologize. There we go.
No worries.
It sent it as an attachment for just
Great
that
people
one.
of MMTLP will be waiting patiently.
I know. Here we go. It's added here. There you go.
All right. So if we can, let's say here, who's it from? Go to the top.
Oh.
At the very top. If you can scroll it down a little bit. So who's that from? Can you read that off to me? And where
Howard Meyerson.
And where's he from?
It says at FIF.com.
Okay. And then underneath the
John Procillo from the SEC.
Okay. So now we know somebody at the SEC is aware and is FINRA on there, or is just FIF?
Just FIF. Yep. And it says the subject is regarding the next bridge S1 filing.
Okay. Now read the highlighted parts out because I don't want people to think I'm leading them.
Says transfer agents are not staffed to handle the functions required by next bridge proposal. Because of the prior FINRA trading halt, there are shares on loan that lending broker dealers cannot recover.
Bingo. I mean, how much more simple can it be?
Wow.
I mean, for the people that are the naysayers, how do you explain that? They can't recover what they sold. They sold something and they can't recover it. And the investors have to just deal with that. And the regulatory bodies that are supposed to be making sure this doesn't happen it's right out there in the open with a Freedom of Information Act request.
That's wild.
That's crazy. Kind of crazy, right?
Yeah. There's some notes
people
here on the page too. It says this exposes coordination between SRO action and broker exposure, acknowledged market structure harm, and then asks the SEC to conceal it by blocking reconciliation. That's a note that someone had put on this screenshot. So
what does it say? Broker dealers will not be able to recover their shares?
Yep. Because of the prior FINRA trading halt, there are shares on loan that lending broker dealers cannot recover.
There you go. I mean, it's really quite simple, and it's right there from our own government. How do people argue with it? Because when I first got into this and I didn't really understand what was happening, I didn't want to be on the wrong side of it. Isaiah, my whole game is trust. I'm getting out there trying to get people information and it's based on trust, right? So I don't want to be on the wrong side of it. So I'm looking at it and they're going, these idiots didn't know the trading was shut down. There was no halt. These guys just didn't understand what was going on. There was no halt. And then right there, it says there was a halt.
There's a halt. Yeah.
It says right there that the brokers cannot recover the shares. Is anybody, what are people saying on the,
Yeah, so we have one lady in here under the name Amy who said she's willing to come on the show. She's on the other side, not the MMTLP side. She's on the other side. And she said, I can explain
ask her how we can find her. Just make sure that we can find her. Just
absolutely.
give her that information.
Yep. If you want to DM me on X, Amy, at Isaiah Asher, or you can DM at the Robb Carter. You can send one of us a message and we can try to get connected with you. But she's saying that she can explain why they can't recover the shares.
Ask her if she can explain just very quickly on here why it's taken 3.5 years to get some resolution.
Yes. If you can put something in there, Amy? I've seen she's made claims that she can explain it, but I haven't seen any explanations from her yet. They're going back and forth in the chat, so we'll see what she says. We'll let that. Sometimes the stream's delayed and it takes a little bit for them to hear us.
Okay.
And so we'll give them a couple minutes here.
And tell Amy I'd love to have her on. I don't know if you can do that on the chat or what have you, but Amy, I'd love to have you on. I want to get to the bottom of it. I just want the truth to be told. That's it. Yeah. And I'm so tired of watching our government get over on people that I want to make sure that in this particular instance, we're going to do everything we can to get the information out to people. We haven't even really begun with what Isaiah and I are doing. You know, when you look at where this is, our show really begins on 5/1. I resigned from a radio station on last Tuesday. We had to put this thing together very quickly. We're working through all of the issues, through the videos, through the timing, through the music that we can play. We've been taken down from everywhere, but we have every intention on getting a big message out. We're going to compete with the best of them. Okay. And we're going to get that message out in a big way through clips and through all the different social media sites. We're going to have a lot of power here within the next 30 days. We're going to be able to get out big messages to people. Right now, you're kind of in a private group of sorts watching the show go on, but we can get this baby out in a big way, and we're going to. So I want to make sure that when we do this, when we get this message out to a bigger audience, that we have both sides invested, and we want to get to the truth, nothing more. I would
Amy
say
said they can't recover the shares because the shares were loaned out to short sellers, and those who borrowed the shares are stuck in this, just like the people who are long.
And I get it, and I understand. I don't disagree with what she's saying. I guess the problem is who's regulating it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's my beef. I don't disagree with what she's saying, but what kind of protections do we actually have in the over-the-counter markets? What kind of protections do these people have? And if they have no protections, then we got to do something about it, is the way I would look at it.
Yeah.
And I don't think Amy's a troll. Amy, I don't say you're a troll. I mean,
I'm not a troll. I'm not a degenerate, she said.
All I'm asking is for you to come on with somebody from MMTLP, and we'll have an honest discussion about what is happening here so that we can finally put some pressure on our government to get answers one way or another. Okay? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for the truth. Okay. And I do want you to put up that Laura Logan piece right here, because I want you to see how many people that are invested and interested in getting to the bottom of it. Because when I interviewed Laura Logan way back in the day, Laura Logan has been, wasn't that long ago, maybe 8 months ago, I interviewed Laura Logan. Laura Logan is somebody who prides herself on being a very competent journalist. She's been all over the world. She breaks some crazy stories. I don't know how many people know her story when she was basically raped over in the Middle East when she was covering the war. She worked for 60 Minutes. She worked for Fox News for a minute. But she, like me, covers stories that sometimes the big time press doesn't really like to talk about. And when she gets into MMTLP, when she starts to see something wrong, right here, okay, Busy Brands is the guy that I talk to all the time. It said it is time to uncover the weaponized bureaucracy that is stripping our public servants of their hard-earned futures. Right. And she's going on about she's replying to Busy Brands. The silence is deafening MMTLP because they're not getting any answers. And by the way, I meant to ask you this, and then we'll see what everybody at MMTLP has to say. But when that Ralph Norman was on, and they were showing they were basically saying the two CEOs were frauds. It looked like a military operation. What did you see that where they were like going out of helicopters on ropes? Did you understand what was going on there? Did you see it?
Yeah, I'm not sure what was going on there either.
Right. I mean, it was weird. It was like, what's that got to do with anything? You're like showing military pictures for this operation, and I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe they were talking in there because it was only a short clip, so maybe they were talking about the veterans. Because I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, some veterans have committed suicide because of loss of money from this situation. I believe there's all kinds of people that have from all different industries that have lost money, but I think that was something. So that could be it, but I'm not sure. I just thought that was odd as well. Unless
what is the audited certified audited share count? Somebody said, Rob, just ask that question. That's really what they want to be public, and they want a public declaration of that. Yeah, they don't want us to say, well, it's on. If you just go to this website or this, they want a public declaration because 74 Congress people signed onto a letter saying they wanted an investigation into the MMTLP situation. And here we are all this time later, still fighting over it, still arguing about it, still trying to get resolution.
Yeah.
And my heart is with people that had their money stolen, right? I was married once and I had all of my money stolen through the courts. Okay. All of it. You know what I'm saying, Isaiah?
Yeah.
And I'm not bitter about it at all. At all. Right. But when somebody fleeces you and it's done through the legal system, it's bothersome to people because they feel like they're trapped. You're like, what do you do if somebody can just rip you off and steal your money, your hard-earned money, because it's not easy to get your money after the taxes and all the nonsense they got going on in our government nowadays. When you have your money stripped away from you, it's concerning, is it not? Nobody wants to come to your rescue.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't there just be a press? I would think,
especially when they give us so much reassurance on the front end.
Correct. Everybody thinks they're safe. Nobody thinks they're going to go out and invest and there's going to be some trickery going on within the markets and they're going to lose their money. That's not what most people think. Now, if you're an insider and you gamble in the stock market on a day-to-day basis, you might know a lot more about it than the average retail investor. But most people think everything is on the up and up. They're going to go put in an investment. They're going to see where it goes, whether they short it or long it. It doesn't really matter, but they're going to put their money into the market and play the game. And they just want it to be regulated properly. That's all.
Amy just said the outstanding share count is 264,637,564. No way to verify that, but she claims to have a lot of information and she knows the stock market very well, is what she said.
Okay. All right.
So
we'll get to it. I want the people on the other side the reason I think the other side might be just not Amy.
She said she does think FINRA made mistakes. So she does think that.
I'm not saying that Amy is in this group because I don't know Amy. But some of these people, the way they come at me is the most bizarre thing in the world. From the very beginning, I actually talked to some lady that was out in Lake St. Louis, Missouri at the time who was suing them. I think her name was Danielle. Wow. And I said, you can come on the show. We can do whatever you want. And we just, we were going back and forth and she just kind of disappeared on me. But listen, if you're lying, you're going to get caught. That's all I'll tell you. But if you believe what you're saying and you're coming in here to have an honest discussion about what's going on in the markets and what's going on with this situation with MMTLP, I just want the truth.
Yep.
Isaiah, have you ever known me?
No.
Does anybody see me as somebody who's trying to shill for somebody for something?
Anyone who's on Amy's side, Rob is not the kind of person who's going to take sides, or like you even said, you don't even like to, necessarily endorse a political candidate because you want to get to the bottom of the truth. You want to represent what is the truth. You want to ask the right questions. And so I think that when we look at Charles Payne and how he's attacking the situation the same way, I think it's just common sense questions that people are asking. I said, okay, I understand that. And that's what he was talking about with Hester. It's like, okay, I understand that, but you still haven't answered this. And this is what the people want, right?
That's where I'm at.
And so I think that's where everyone's just at right now. And
that's exactly where I'm at.
Maybe he has some answers for us.
Yeah, questions that, listen, your government has to answer the questions for you. There's no scenario that I can come up with where if you believe you were defrauded by the government, 74 congresspeople signed a letter. You've had Charles Payne on Fox News going after Hester Peirce and Paul Atkins, right? You've had all of this back and forth between the people that say the CEOs were liars and thieves and stole all of this money away from investors. And you have the investors who say the regulatory bodies are the problem. It's not that difficult to come out and hold a press conference and say, look, this is exactly what went down. This is how it went down. This is it. 3.5 years later, if you're interested in getting to the bottom of it, and I'll just make this last statement, 3.5 years, if you're interested in getting to the bottom of the situation, it would be solved by now. It's that simple. There's nothing that complicated in this world that takes 3.5 years to figure out. It's just not that complicated. It's not. And the idea that they sell it as though it's just under investigation. Maybe it isn't it isn't. Nobody even really knows what's going on. To me, it just seems like the typical runaround. And the reason it hits me in the heart is because what I recognize going on with this MMTLP community is exactly what I've recognized going on in Washington, D.C. It's exactly what I've watched go down in the state of Missouri. And I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of the little guy. I'm tired of the middle class getting raped by the people that are there to represent them. And then they act like it ain't. They act like everybody's crazy and they did this. They made this.
We had a 10 million home shortage this year. 10 million homes we're short 10 million homes this year. And so, but we can go to Iran. We can go hunt oil down. We can fight the wars. We can do all
Absolutely.
that, but we can't solve these domestic issues.
For the people listening, just think about this for a second, because if I've got some people from MMTLP, I want to capture your imagination here for just a second. And if you ask the right questions and you start to really think about them, like I do, like every second of every day, like an insane person, just think about this. Our country, for all the way back to Bush Reagan in 1976, has complained about open borders and people crossing our borders illegally. Okay. Now, you may be for or against people being able to travel without borders. I'm not making that argument. But both parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, have tossed this back and forth for 50 years. 50 years. You can go back and see Barack Obama taking credit for cleaning up the borders. You can go back to Ronald Reagan and George Bush fighting about the borders in the primaries in 1976. Then you can see that Joe Biden wanted the borders wide open. Not only did they want the borders wide open and your $39 trillion in debt, they wanted to pay for the people to be flown all over the country. They wanted to give them housing. They wanted to give them food. They wanted to pay them to come to this country for their benefit at your taxpayer expense. And who's going to get in trouble for it? Nobody.
Give them a cell phone, give them health insurance,
everything.
We'll give it to you.
And it's not that we don't love these people. I'm not one of these people that hates everybody that wants to get here. I got it. I understand. If I could get to the place that prints the money out of thin air, that's the place I want to get to, right? So I understand. I'm not mad at these people for coming here at all. They were invited by the Biden administration. What I have a problem with is that Alejandro Mayorkas, who oversaw the border, okay, just so you understand, he worked for HIAS, HIAS, the Hebrew Immigration, whatever, Association, whatever it is, right? Okay. He's the one that is controlling the border during the Biden administration. He gets impeached by the House, and then Chuck Schumer didn't take it up in the Senate. So you had treason going on by allowing these people into our country, because the Constitution says that that body, the federal government, is supposed to protect from invasion. Okay. So if you have is that an invasion? Would you consider that an invasion? 30
oh
million
yeah, I always like to put in this context. Imagine if 30 million Americans went into Canada. Do you think that Canada would be okay with that?
Exactly.
No,
they wouldn't. And you're paid for it.
Yeah.
And then they want to solve the problem, they want you to pay for it again. So they create a problem that costs you money, and then to solve it, they take away your liberty and your freedom with surveillance and charge you more money.
Yep.
It's a scam. This is not representative government, and you guys are seeing it right out there in the open, as far as
I thought it was funny when I was talking to you about my alderman campaign and how I wanted to go and talk to the people and hear from them and what are the issues that matter to them. You called it old school politics. Yeah. And it is, because the new school of politics is we're going to tell you what you need to think and what you need to believe, because we're smarter than you and we're better than you.
That's exactly it.
And so I just found that so funny.
I'm gonna run out of time on this story. I asked everybody at MMTLP, all of the naysayers, Kristen Shaughnessy, who I think is absolutely fantastic. I've had her on my show. Junk Savvy, Busy Brands, Charles Payne, Laura Logan, and Vandersteel. Let's collaborate and let's do this story right. It doesn't have to be on my show. I'm not looking for views. I'm not looking for anything. My advertising is local.
We can even do a recorded segment that we play on the show if we needed to.
Exactly. At this moment in time, I'm a small business advocate. So I'm working internally. The X stuff is absolutely fantastic, but it doesn't bring me any money. I'm looking to get problems solved. All right. Yeah. That's the issue. I hope that everybody gets involved in the conversation. I would love to have a public conversation routinely until this problem is resolved. For all the people at MMTLP, we're going to switch over to, and if you can get her on, I want to get on. And I hope that everybody at MMTLP, all those people that are invested in the story, listen to this lady that's getting ready to come on. Her name is Jen Olson. Jen Olson is in one of the most conservative counties in all of Missouri, St. Charles County, and she is running for the director of elections position in St. Charles County. She has been in a back and forth with a guy named Kurt Barr in St. Charles County. And let me just explain to the people of MMTLP the story. Can we get Jen on?
Yep.
Okay, you can bring her on, and I'll just tell the story very quickly. Jen, before we get to you, I just want to give everybody an update as to what's going on here. So from MMTLP, if you could listen to the story for just 1 second, okay? Jen is running for the director of elections in St. Charles County. Now, this is I think it is the largest conservative county in all of Missouri, okay? She's running against a guy named Kurt Barr, and I'm going to tell you what goes on in state politics if you don't pay attention to it. Kurt Barr runs the elections. He was made aware by many people, some on the St. Charles City Council, that the elections were being manipulated. They had people come in from out of town, show him and his people how the elections were being manipulated. And his response to them was, why should I care? That's exactly what he said. Okay. Then when he ran the next election in 2024, now we're talking about the governors and everything else. So I am with one of the gubernatorial candidates, a guy by the name of Bill Eigel, waiting for results on election night 2024 for the Missouri governor's race. Okay. So put this all in your pipe so you understand what's going on here. They're dead last to get it in. St. Charles County is dead last to get their election results in. And then the director of elections, his wife was running in a local election. She won by one vote. One vote. Last people to get their things in, they go one vote. And then we take a group down to the city council because we want to protest about it. And they had people on the city council that turned their back on the information and wanted to charge $10,000 from the person who lost by one vote to have an audit of the situation. It's just the most amazing thing in the world. And they get away with it over and over and over. And everybody wants to make excuses for it. As I've said a million times when I interviewed Kurt Barr, I don't hate Kurt Barr. I don't know enough about Kurt Barr to hate Kurt Barr. All I know is Kurt Barr is he's not paying attention to the will of the people. He's not reading the tea leaves. And I get the feeling that maybe he just doesn't really need to read the tea leaves because he's running the elections. Yeah. And that concerns me greatly. Welcome, Jen Olson. What's going on, sister?
Good morning this morning.
Good morning this morning. I want to get everybody up to speed on why you're running. You've been in this game for a long time. You were on the Wentzville County, Wentzville School Board. Before we get into the elections, your name has been dragged through the mud a lot lately. And I know that it's got to bother you because I think you're a very proud person. I've had people tell me that you're crazy, that you're causing all kinds of trouble, that you're this, that you're that. And I said, well, maybe she's crazy. We've met what, 7-8 times since I've known you, right? We meet at certain functions and events. A lot of people that are tied to me also are very close with you. So, that gives me a little interest, an understanding of who you are. But this whole idea that you're this crazy loon person comes from, at least from my understanding, some kind of action you took when you were on the Wentzville School Board. What do I not know? Did you do something crazy? Did you start cursing at people? Did you pull out a gun? What exactly did you do for you to be dragged through the mud as some crazy person? I really don't understand it. Where does it come from? Do you know?
Well, I would actually say it goes back farther than that. When COVID happened, we showed up at all the meetings for city council, county council, just trying to get people to get involved and take back, our rights as parents to say, no, my kid's not going to wear a mask, or my kid isn't sick just because, 3 doors down, there was a kid that was sick and they were within 10 feet of each other. Because during COVID, we had like 350,000 missed school days for students across the county. It was insane. Wow. So we would show up and we would protest and we would try and encourage other parents to do so. And we actually were pretty effective. It wasn't just here in Wentzville. We went around to all the school districts in the county, just trying to get parents involved. There was another group out there too doing the same thing. So we kind of just joined forces and gave the parents a microphone, and it worked because the county executive ended up ending the quarantining process shortly after we filed a lawsuit, which was a good thing because our kids needed to get back to school. It affected.
Were you doing something crazy though? I've met you and you seem relatively measured. I've never seen you lose your temper. I've never seen you shouting and screaming. I've never seen anything that makes me think you're a crazed person. Where does that come from? Is that just some rhetoric to diminish your reputation? Was there some event that I'm unaware of that got out of hand that you were either a part of or that you did? I just don't know where it comes from. Nobody that I know who knows you makes that description of you. Yet all the people who really don't know who you are seem to spread this about you all over the state of Missouri and St. Charles County, and I don't get it. I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from.
So listen, I think it has a lot to do with personality conflicts that are based in criticism. As a citizen, it's my duty to criticize my elected officials when they are not doing their job, in my view, or when they are abusing.
That's why they call me crazy. So now I get it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's only a handful of people that, are on our side. I know they're on our side. We do align politically, but it's just the personality conflict where they don't want to be called out for what they've done, or, I don't know, or what they haven't done, their failure to act in certain situations. I don't think they're bad people. I don't think that even when they're going around telling people I'm crazy, I expected this when I signed up for school board. It's probably one of the most toxic sections or subsections of government right now.
A lot of theft going on inside these school boards.
Was that for Timberland?
No, she was Wentzville.
Okay.
School district. So Timberland, Holt.
Yeah. So my wife graduated from Timberland, and now you'll find this crazy, Rob. They have litter boxes in the bathroom for the kids because of the whole furry situation.
Yeah, this is what goes on.
So this is what goes on. So having someone like Jen standing up for the parents and the students is definitely what they need.
But before we get into elections, not many people talk about the fraud that's going on in the school boards and the money that is being wasted, because when you pay off these people, and it's kind of inside baseball. We'll get into it. I think there's some people that want to come on and really share this story, so I'm not going to ruin that for them. And I'm not sure that you want to get into that. But there's so much fraud going on, and there's so much malfeasance within the school boards. There's so much money that is being stolen and wasted from taxpayers that it's almost, you would think it would be criminal, but I guess if people keep getting away with it, I guess it's just is what it is, right? I mean, I don't know what else to say, because you can see I've had so many people reach out to me about the theft that is going on at the school boards. 3 people tell me the exact same con that went down in Wentzville from all over the state of Missouri. 3 different groups from the state of Missouri have said this is what went down, independent of each other, with the same law firm, right? And the same people. And it's like you could explain it to an 8th grader, and our government does nothing about it except allow it to happen. And I don't get it.
Yep. I refer to it as the education cartel. Education and the NEA and all of this is one of the largest, most influential, most powerful lobbying entities in our country, at the national level, state level, local level. It doesn't matter. And that's why, April elections look so much different here in St. Charles County and across the state than a November election, when you know which party everybody's from and all of that. And I think it's really doing some damage at this point, with the lack of party affiliation on the ballot, because we are polarized, whether we like it or not. We are a polarized country from the top down.
And I wonder, I was going to ask you this too, when you talk about that, because I know there's some legislation going to move the elections to November, but I also wanted to ask you about party affiliation. I'm not a party person. I really despise the 2-party system. I've talked about that multiple times, because I think it's very easily to consolidate 2 parties into one with money, number one. But why can't you just describe yourself? Like, you might say, I'm a moderate conservative. I have a libertarian bent. Why can't you describe yourself on the ballot so I know who I'm voting for? Because to be honest with you, Republican doesn't mean anything to me, Martin. That would not sway my opinion at all if it said Republican on it. But if you told me, this is a description of what I believe. I'm a conservative thinker. I believe in discipline in schools. I believe in discipline in finances. I believe this is the way the schools should be run. Just a little blurb about how you see the world. Why can't you at least do that? Because right now, when people go to vote in the school elections, unless they're a friend of Jen Olson's, they have no idea who to vote for. They don't even know what you're talking about. And most people don't vote in the first place.
So I think the reason we can't do that is because there's no room on the ballot for the mini intros or whatever. And honestly, I would put conservative if that was an option, but it's not. So there's Republican, Constitution, Libertarian, Democrat, Independent, Green Party, I think, as far as what you can put next to your name on the ballot in August and November. But, especially in April, it's really hard for big school districts like Wentzville, Francis Howell, Fort Zumwalt, for the people that are running for the Board of Education, for them to reach their entire constituency. I spoke at a county council meeting a couple weeks ago, and I stood up and I told them, I was like, guys, my constituency is bigger than yours by a lot. There's 7 county council districts in St. Charles County, but there's only 5 school districts. And if we're being completely honest, there's really 3 big ones and 2 small ones that are, in the pockets.
Right.
So it's massive, where they would have to hit 5,000 doors, I have to hit 40,000 or 20. It's a lot more. So
am I cutting into your time, Jen?
What?
Am I cutting into your time? You should be knocking on doors today.
I hear it's raining outside, so we're good.
Okay, you're good. Okay, let me get into elections now. There is, if you're in Missouri and you're in St. Charles County, you know that there is a back and forth, kind of a verbal war going on between Jen and between Jen's faction and the Kurt Barr faction, which I would describe as where'd Jen go? I don't see her.
Oh, I'm just, it's the camera shots.
Okay, yeah, leave her.
Don't worry about that.
I want to see her reaction to this.
Yes.
There seems to be a bit of a verbal back and forth war going on with the radio station that I was at was number one. You have Kurt Barr, who seems to be very friendly with the establishment people when they have their get-togethers. It's all the people that I perceive to be somewhat establishment figures. And I look at this and I say, okay, well, why can't we just have a public open debate about this? I think it's easy. I've said to you many times, if I'm Jen Olson, I'm just simply running billboards that say hand counting paper ballots, period. That's it. Because that's what the citizens want. The only people that don't want that are chewing on your ear, Jen, are involved with the Republican Party, right? You don't walk out and go, hey, are you a Democrat or Republican? No, if you just walk to the grocery store and say, hey, listen, both sides have said the elections have been stolen through the machinery, and we'll play those clips here in just a minute. Both sides for a long time have been saying elections have been stolen through the machines. I want to clean up our elections, paper ballots, hand counted, maybe a video surveillance, whatever you need to do to make sure that the election is verifiable. That is what I intend to do. I want to make sure that our elections have, that citizens have confidence in our elections. That's what I aim to do. And you're made out to be an insane person for even suggesting such a crazy thing. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's frustrating when it's coming from people that I know would likely support this if Kurt Barr said, let's go to hand counting. They'd be like,
right.
Hand counting. But he won't.
But nobody wants to do this. If you know, in Arkansas, Jen, the Huckabee administration, they had a town where they wanted to hand count paper ballots, and the Huckabee administration went after these people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's crazy. I'm like, they want to and they had a perfect election. They had no problem with their election at all, but they wouldn't let them do it. Same thing happened in Wisconsin. If you want to have hand counted paper ballots, the establishment doesn't want that to happen. And again, I ask, as you're running as a Republican, why would they not want that to happen if that's what the citizens demand?
Yeah.
Don't you have to ask yourself?
Yeah. And not only do the citizens demand it, even if they don't believe that it's across the board, Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. In the caucuses, the Republican caucuses back in 2024,
that's right,
all but I think one district voted almost unanimously to go back to hand counting paper ballots, to change the Republican platform to put that in there. So our party wants it, or the party that I currently, I align with since I've been an adult. We want it. And then I go out and I talk to people who I know for a fact are not Republicans, and they don't trust the machines either. They don't trust the tabulators. They don't trust the poll pads. They don't trust the electronic voting machines. Because they don't know how they work. Nobody does. We can't.
Well, here, can I play a clip for you?
Yep.
So one of our friends sent this morning. They said, Rob, it's funny how the Democrats aren't really taking this issue up. That's why I think it's one party. I really do. I think money controls both of the parties. I'm convinced of it. You would think the Democrats know that there's a split within the Republican Party, and one of those splits is over how we count votes. So you would think the Democrats would make hay about it, because this is what the Democrats had to say about election equipment just recently in the U.S. Congress.
Think that our voting machines are too vulnerable.
For researchers have repeatedly demonstrated that ballot recording machines and other voting systems are susceptible to tampering.
Even hackers with limited prior knowledge, tools, and resources are able to breach voting machines in a matter of minutes.
In 2018, electronic voting machines in Georgia and Texas deleted votes for certain candidates or switched votes from one candidate to another.
The biggest seller of voting machines is doing something that violates Cybersecurity 101, directing that you install remote access software, which would make a machine like that, a magnet for fraudsters and hackers.
These voting machines can be hacked quite easily.
You could easily hack into them. It makes it seem like all these states are doing different things, but in fact, 3 companies are controlling this.
It is the individual voting machines that pose some of the greatest risks.
There are a lot of states that are dealing with antiquated machines, right, which are vulnerable to being hacked.
Workers were able to easily hack into an electronic voting machine. It was possible to switch votes.
43% of American voters use voting machines that researchers have found have serious security flaws, including backdoors.
We know how vulnerable now our systems were. I know the hackathon that took place last year, where virtually every machine was broken into fairly quickly.
I actually held a demonstration for my colleagues here at the Capitol, where we brought in folks who, before our eyes, hacked election machines. Those that are being used in many states.
Aging systems also frequently rely on unsupported software like Windows XP in 2000, which may not receive regular security patches and are thus more vulnerable to the latest methods of cyber attack.
in a close presidential election, they just need to hack one swing state, or maybe one or two, or maybe just a few counties in one swing state.
I'm very concerned that you could have a hack that finally went through.
Those are the Democrats. So I ask you, if that's the Democrat leadership in Congress, where are the Democrats in the state of Missouri trying to split the Republican Party? They're not. How can that make any sense to any rational thinking person?
The uniparty.
Exactly. But why can't people see it? It's so obvious.
I don't know. I mean, I always think about this, like when someone gets into either the House or the Senate in DC, or even if they're just like a lobbyist there or somebody who works in and around, it's almost like they really do keep the secrets of the House. Like nobody really knows what goes on behind the closed doors and how it operates.
Let me give you a little bit of that real fast so people know what you're referencing. Let's see here.
I will keep the secrets of the House.
And I will keep the secrets of the House.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
See, when people say, this is the argument that I get, Jen, we know each other a little bit, so I'll kind of play this out for you. They're like, when you start doing your podcast and you get out of radio, make sure you talk national news because you're going to be on all these formats that aren't going to talk about Missouri. And I said, no. What you have to understand is Missouri is a microcosm of all your states. Whether it's Democrat or Republican, the system is working the same way. It does not matter whether you're in a red state or a blue state. These people are con artists. If you're around them long enough, it's very obvious. You become friendly with them. They tell you you're going to get things done. They never get anything done. Our friend Denny Hoskins runs on the idea of getting rid of, he runs the elections in the state of Missouri. He runs on the idea that he wants to get rid of electronic voting systems. It's the only person that I've ever endorsed because that's what he said he was going to do. He gets into the Secretary of State's position and he can't do anything about it. He tells us he just can't do anything. And I'm like, well, can't you jump up and scream? Can't you hold a press conference? I mean, that is why we elected you. That was the main reason. But I don't think he believes that. I think he thinks he got in there for different reasons. But that's why our group and the people surrounding us voted for him. Is it not, Jen?
I 100% voted for him to do that. And so I look at this, I try and see things from all perspectives. I try and see, like when I'm sitting there going, why is this happening or why is this not happening? I try and dig really deep. I think potentially what happened was he got in and the lawyers lawyered him and, they brought up, well, what about St. Louis County? Do you really want people in St. Louis County hand counting the votes and this, that, the other? The contracts that we have with the voting, the tabulating, everything. I think if we in St. Charles County can return to hand counting, we're going to set precedent in this state, and it's going to be really hard for every other county to pretend like they can't do it.
I know you almost did a hand count of your votes right off the bat. We need to get some kind of funding because Kurt Barr did say when I interviewed him, I said, listen, if we can come up with enough money to hand count the votes at the end of this, would you be okay with that? And he said, yes. I don't know what I mean, there's got to be some millionaire in the state of Missouri that says, yes, we'll pay for that hand count. Cause I'd really like to know if those machines are exactly what they say they are, because I'd like to know that. Whether Kurt wins, you win. I want to know that the elections are in the up and up because I don't feel that they are.
I think the only way that's going to happen is if we are in a tie vote, $10,000 to recount the whole election. Because he made it clear that he's not a fan of hand counting the votes, or his wife won by 1 or 2 votes, depending on what time of night you're talking about, or day, or the next day, or the next day. There's the St. Charles City alderman race right now that is a tie because of one, I believe it was a provisional ballot, not ABBA, that came in afterwards. And it's like, this right here, you don't seal the box. You decide, you have the authority as the director of elections to go in there and say, we're going to hand count this entire race. It'll be 3,000 ballots, that's going to take a half a day. It's not rocket science. It's not $10,000 worth of labor.
They act like it is, though.
Oh,
they act like counting votes is like putting a person on Mars. It's the craziest thing in the world. They basically are telling the people that they represent that they're too stupid to be able to count votes. That's really what it is. We don't have enough time, and you're too stupid. You guys, we don't trust you. You can't get it right. And like, there are so many different ways that you could ensure the elections with today's technology, with money behind it, with a marketing scheme behind it, with a state holiday. There's so many different things you could do to ensure elections. And neither party, and I'm 100% positive of this. This is the one thing, as much as I'm sure today is Wednesday, I am positive that the people in the state of Missouri have no interest whatsoever on hand counting paper ballots and returning confidence back to the citizens. I'm positive of. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
I think when we're talking about the establishment folks as elected officials, I agree. I think the actual people,
yes,
they absolutely do on both sides of the aisle. I have had support already from both sides of the aisle on this topic. They want to be more involved in the process. I'm speaking about Democrats right now. They want to be more involved in the process, and they want more of an effort made to reach out to them to get them involved in the process. So I think this
what
year,
did the Democrats get though? Answer this for me, just for outside of the elections. What with Republican supermajority in the state of Missouri? What would the Democrats not get through the Republican Party? Higher taxes. We have. They didn't get rid of the personal property tax. They added the gasoline tax. St. Louis City is an absolute disaster and war zone. We have transgender going into our kids. They're trying to get rid of that. They had abortion abolished. I'm just talking about for conservative values. They had abortion abolished. They couldn't pass IP reform because they handed it to a former Democrat who sabotaged her own bill, right? You had Mike Parsons when we had the illegal immigration problem in St. Charles County. He goes, well, there's just not much I can do about that. That's a federal problem. I would like to, the schools are a mess. They're all run by liberals. What would the Republican Party, what would the Democrat Party get that they're not getting now if they got in charge? I'm just trying to figure out where they think things would be better. It's a $54 billion budget. It's been doubled by the Republicans. I could go on and on and on, because if I didn't know that the Republicans had a supermajority in the state of Missouri, and I just came from outer space with what I know right now and looked at our state, I would say, well, that's a Democrat state, and it has to be. What would they get different? That's why I don't even, what are they not getting that they want?
So it's uniparty, and I take it back. It's Democrats running around wearing red. We have a supermajority on paper. We don't have a supermajority in practice. It's people who can't win as a Democrat will, I guess, play the part.
Yeah, they'll run as Republicans. That's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would ask the Republican Party central committees to handle that situation.
Yeah.
And I don't know how good they're doing at that, Jen. So tell me about first of all, where can people find you? I want to get this out very quickly. If we can put that anyway, we can roll that on the screen. I don't know if we can, Isaiah, but if people want to donate to your campaign, if they want to get a hold of you, if they want to put out signs, and I'm going to ask all of your supporters to cut this up. They can cut me out of it if they think that I'm trying to get anything out of it. They can cut me out of the scene. I don't really care. But get you out. Get this information out on Facebook. Are we still on Facebook? Did I get shut down again today?
No, I actually got us on Facebook and on People's Lobby Facebook.
Look at you go. All right. There it is. Jen Olson right there. So if you want to get to Jen, what's the website, Jen?
olsonforthepeople.com is my website. olsonforthepeople@gmail.com is my email. And at Jen Olson SCC, as in St. Charles County. And that's on Facebook, Twitter. I call it Twitter still because I'm ancient.
Yep, me too.
TikTok, Rumble. I don't know if I have a Rumble. YouTube. So you can follow me pretty much anywhere that there's social media.
I think this is probably your best one to go to. And is it the one that's on the screen is which one?
This is olsonforthepeople.com. Yep.
Olson with it's OLSON, olsonforthepeople.com. Olson, OLSON forthepeople.com. Just go to her website. Listen, you need money. Unfortunately, that's the way this whole situation works. I can't stand it. I think it's ridiculous that you have to beg for money in order to help the people. But if people want to get organized and get somebody in there that is a bulldog when it comes to getting things done for the people, pay attention to Jen Olson. I mean, she's not doing. I don't even think you wanted to run. Didn't you get a call from Joe Brazel in order to get you off and running for this position? I mean, I don't think you were looking forward to this fight, were you?
I wasn't planning on doing this. No, I was going to retire from the school board and sail away into the sunset. But then when I found out that the person we thought was going to run for elections director, and I got a phone call, I was like, I absolutely have to at this point. I have to, because he cannot stay in office for another 4 years. We need to do what we've all been saying we want to do. And that's the whole point of my campaign, is to listen to the people who have been screaming, shouting, begging, pleading with government to give them back their voice.
What? It's so frustrating to me, Jen. I feel where you're coming from. I do. And I know you're going to hustle. I'm sure you're going to outwork everybody involved. I can already feel that from talking to your friends. You're constantly on the move. If people want to volunteer, they go to your website, I guess. If people want to donate, they go to your website. That's the way to go about it.
Yep. I need a lot of people to help me knock doors as well. So if you like exercise and also you like to talk, be a great exercise program for you. If you like the outdoors, long walks on the sidewalk, I got it all for you.
Isaiah just won alderman, so he just got through with it. He just did it, and he won, and he won.
Congrats.
Praise the Lord.
He's going to bring you the good luck. Okay. Last thing, just very quickly. Any other main differences? I know you want hand counted paper ballots. Are you in favor of moving the elections to November?
Absolutely.
And you're in favor of some kind of determination, whether it be Republican, Democrat, or some kind of, I'll say blurb or description of who you're voting for. Most people do not. And the reason I keep thinking these people with NEA get their way is because if you're in the school system and you're a teacher or an administrator or a janitor or what have you, you know that these elections are important. This is your Super Bowl, and all of your family and friends go out and vote in these very small elections. Whereas most people, and I've made this, people give me trouble about it, but I'm just being honest. I don't think I've ever voted in a school board race. I really don't. Isaiah, did you vote in school board races when you were younger?
No.
Yeah, I don't think many people vote in them, and primarily because of what you just described. I wouldn't know who I was voting for. I have no idea. I don't know if I'm voting for a conservative or a liberal. I mean, if I don't know the person, how can I vote? There has to be some way for you to describe what you were all about on the ballot so that people who are unaware have some understanding of who they're voting for. That just should be simple. That should not even be.
What I encountered here when I was running for alderman. That's what I encountered. People would ask me when I knocked doors, well, are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? And they cared so much that I was a Republican and that I aligned with the Republican values. And they all told me, man, I wish it said that on the ballot, because if I knew that the person that you're opposing was a Democrat, I definitely would never vote for them. But we just see your names, and so we don't really know. And then in this town, the people that are running don't usually get out and knock doors and talk to people. And so that was something new for the people of St. Clair as well.
Oh, got it.
Number one most asked question, and the one that I feel like voters are most passionate about in April, is what party are you? It's the question they ask, and it's typically the one that ends the conversation either way. We don't have much more. I'm voting for you, or yeah, no thanks.
Right.
So
that's really what it comes down to, his party. But see, you've got to win in a primary, because once you win the primary, you're going to win. So you just have to get through the primary. And again, primaries in August, right?
Yep.
Are we going to get this election thing together? Because I would like to help you out with this election in July. I would like to get, I think we've talking about this, Mark Cook, talking about Mike Lindell coming to our event in July. Have we set a date? Do we need to set a date? Does my organization need to get that baby rolling? You just tell me what to do, because I want people to understand what they're voting for. Because if this goes wrong again, I don't know. I don't know. It's very strange what's happening in St. Charles County.
that would be a very helpful event, I think, to get the word out to people about how. I also want to have like a hand count demonstration for people to come see that this isn't going to take all day. This isn't rocket science reinventing the wheel. We've been doing it since the beginning of voting.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the biggest pushback that you get? Because that's what I heard when I was talking to the Franklin County clerk here, just talking about it and just having a conversation. I'm friendly with him. And so it takes too much time, Isaiah. That's what they always
talking about Tim Baker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to start counting until after the polls close, but the law allows you to start counting. I think it's an hour after the polls open, or when 25 ballots in the box. So that's why he says it would take too long. And I think what it would take too long to report the totals, because he doesn't start until 7 p.m. when the polls close, which that would take too long for him. I'm going to start after the polls open, and we're going to be counting all day long.
Can I give you a couple clips before we leave you?
Yep.
I just want the audience that's looking out around the state of Missouri, because this will be all cut up and this will create a life of its own. But I really want people to understand where the lack of confidence comes from, right? I always say, I don't know that the elections aren't being stolen. I suspect they're being stolen. If you manipulated, I guess I should say manipulated. And I always say, if you put a gun to my head and say, you got to be right or wrong, I'd say they're manipulated. And I wouldn't even think twice. It makes no sense to me that you would have an election system with so many potential holes in it. There's too much money at stake. There's too much power at stake, and people with power and money usually don't leave things to chance. That's just something that I've learned through life over time, right? But let's go back. Clip number 2, if you don't mind, Isaiah. So this is Clint Curtis. I had Clint Curtis on the show. He's a big player in the election game. And I flat out asked him, I said, can elections be stolen through tabulators only? Because in Missouri, it's the tabulators we're talking about. And he said, yes. I had, who's the other guy?
Clay Parikh.
Who was it? Clay Parikh. He said it. And then the other guy, why is his name escaping me? He was with Trump in the White House in 2020. I can't think of his name. He was the guy that was the CEO of Overstock.com. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Patrick Burns.
Patrick Byrne. So Patrick Byrne was on the show, and I asked him the same question. It was at the very end. I said, okay, because he was talking about machines and malfeasance that was going on. I said, is there a way to manipulate elections through tabulators? And he said, yes. It's kind of complicated, and it was toward the end. He goes, I don't know if I can get into it because it's a complicated. But he goes, the short answer is yes. You can rig machines, you can rig tabulate, you can rig anything basically with software. Okay. So think of that. And then let's play clip number 2. This is Clint Curtis in the year 2004. This is 22 years ago, right? This guy testified as to changing the outcome of elections through software that he wrote. Go ahead. Oh, it's copyrighted. Don't play it.
Right?
Stop it. Stop it. You can pause it. I don't want to play it.
Okay.
If they
I was
copyright
wondering.
it down over that, I don't want to play. I didn't realize that said that on there. What a
Yeah.
bummer. Anyway, he testifies that he wrote code for the machines down in Florida for the Republicans. He said for the Republicans. I was a Republican member of Congress, and he said I wrote it to be 5149, and that's it. That's what I did. And he testified, and they were all asking him questions. They said, well, after the election is over, this is the thing that caught my attention. They said, after the election is over, can anybody do an audit and find it? And he said, no. And they said, well, why not? And he said, because the way it is written, the code actually eats itself after the election. So it's gone. There's no way to see an algorithm in it the way he wrote the code in those machines at that time. I think it's much more advanced from there. How about clip number 3, Barack Obama? So if we're talking about the Republicans complaining about the elections being stolen from Donald Trump in 2020, which I think is really what raised the concerns, here's Obama running for president in Ohio. Listen to what he had to say. Clip number 3. That was hard to download.
I would just like to know what you can say to reassure us that this election will not be rigged or stolen.
Well, I tell you what, it helps in Ohio that we got Democrats in charge of the machines.
That's good. That's good, Isaiah.
Yep.
And that's what's
Pretty
so
good.
crazy to me, right? Is if the Democrats win the election, they think the elections are on the up and up. If a Republican wins the elections, they think they're on the up and up because nobody can get past the mental hurdle that these two operations are run by the same money. They just they cannot get past that idea that the people running the show are the big money people and they have control over elections just in general, whether it be Democrats or Republicans. That's my opinion based on watching this for a long period of time. Jen, great to see you.
You too.
Anything else you want to say? Give it to him. You got all the time you need.
Before we go, I just want to encourage people to go to my website and subscribe for updates. I'm going to need, again, door knockers, which we say door knockers, but really most of the time you're just hanging the literature on someone's doorknob. Sometimes there's people out and about you can talk to. Hand counting, I need volunteers for that. Upcoming events, volunteers for that. Just anything that you can do to help the ground game is greatly appreciated. We need an army.
All right, cut this up because it's got it scrolling underneath.
Yep.
Right. You get it out to all of the people that support you and you're going to have to work this thing smart, right? You're going to have to get this out to a lot of people. I'll give you all the opportunity you need. I am on your side. I want to make that very clear. Bill Eigel, are we still with Biz? Bill Eigel gave you, he ran for governor. He's running for county executive. He gave you an endorsement. So this is, you don't come off as a crazy person to me, although for some reason within the establishment, you're hot as fire. If they touch it, they turn to, you know what I mean? Which makes me think that you're probably on the right side of things.
Yeah, I'm a serious and I'm a passionate person about freedom and liberty. And I think sometimes when people get their toe caught in the door,
they lash out. Yeah, that's what I think is going on too. All right, Jen Olson, good luck to you. We'll have that scrolling for you. Jen, here we go. Olson, OLSON for the people.com. Olson for the people.com. We'll be in touch a little bit later on, Jen. Thanks for the time.
Have a good
day. You got it. All right, Isaiah, what's your take on this whole situation? That was
yeah. It's great to hear from someone who's not you know, I'm just thinking about the live stream where they were doing the election test for the voting machines. And I think People's Lobby was the one that was live streaming, and Kurt Barr was there. And I just, again, I don't know Kurt Barr. I've never met him. I don't know him from Adam, you know, but the way he came off talking to the people.
Like they're idiots.
Yeah. And he's like, no, look, let me, and it took him he thought he was so confident that he knew the statute. And then they get the book out and he's like, oh, wait, let me reread this. And they're like, no, look right here. And he's like, oh, wait. And so that's what I think, just going back to what I was saying earlier about the politics and politicians in general. I think that they just think that they know more, they're smarter, they have the information, and they need to give you the information because you're too dumb.
I think that's exactly what goes down. I really do. And I think there's an inherent arrogance when you're in the machine all day to think that you're smarter and have a better understanding of what is going on. It always goes back to Carly Fiorina when she was running for president. And she made the statement that stuck with me, because you try to explain in a very simple manner to people what potentially could be happening in your country. And she said, do fish know that they're swimming in the ocean? And what she meant by that is, once you get into this system, once this system begins to take over your life, and now all your friends are in the system like a fraternity, and everybody from the bureaucracy to the attorneys to your other Republican leaders and everything, they're all coming at you, and they're putting their arms around you, and they're throwing love your way. All of a sudden, this is your frame of reference. These are the people you care about. These are the people that are in your life, and you don't want to, you don't want to mess that up.
Bring money to your campaign, maybe too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's something else. I wanted to read this very quick. Just one more thing with MMTLP. So this was off of whitehouse.gov, because I was talking to Busy Brands yesterday, and he said, he referenced an executive order by Donald Trump. It's executive order 14147, if people want to look it up. 14147. And I said, what is it with it? Because I read it last night. I'm like, what am I missing? He goes, and it's very simple. I don't know why I missed it. But it says in this executive order, EO 14147, Section 3, it says, ending the weaponization of the federal government. The Attorney General, in consultation with the heads of all departments and agencies of the United States, shall take appropriate action to review the activities of all departments and agencies exercising civil or criminal enforcement authority of the United States, including, but not limited to, the Department of Justice, the Securities and Exchange Commission. That's what they wanted me to get at. I'm like, this is an executive order, because they're basically saying a weaponization of government could be going through the Securities and Exchange Commission. And I think the people at MMTLP would agree.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we still got a lot of the MMTLP army in the chat. They're still here supporting you. They were supporting Gen 2, so they stuck around for you.
The MMTLP army, and the reason I am, the reason I want to, I don't even say that I want to help them. They've done enough to help themselves. But the reason I want to work with them is, as I said before, you're watching the very beginning of something. When you leave radio, I left radio. I resigned after just what have you. I don't really want to get into that story, but I resigned right in the middle of a show, and I decided that I was going to come do this, but I had no infrastructure to do it. Thank God for Isaiah. I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know that I'd be able to pull it off as fast as we did. So on Tuesday, I leave the radio station where we have a big audience. I think we had for political talk, we had the #1 radio station in the country. We had definitely the #1 streaming station in the country, in the state. We had one of the top, I think we might have the top 3 or 4 streaming stations in all of the country, right? Wow. So people digitally coming in to see what we had to say. So leaving that was, it was a knee-jerk decision, but it was really made on the idea that I'd built a big enough audience that I could take this thing on the road if I needed to. It was in the back of my mind. And if I wanted to just, and this is no slight on the radio station, as I've said over and over, I have a lot of people that I love there. I wish them all the best in the world. I hope that station is #1 forever, because I love the people there. But I had to be on my own, because I want to talk about the things that are important to me. And sometimes the things that are important to me aren't necessarily important to Missouri politics. It's not important to the Republican establishment. It's not important to, it's not important for business, right? Because that station needs Republican interviews, and I'm ripping the Republican Party from up and down, right to left every single day. I could see where that wears on their opportunity to make money as a business. I got it. But when I did this, I had to go to my advertisers and say, listen, here's the deal. Here's what I want to do. But give Isaiah and I time to build something, because when you move from radio to podcasting, you have to do digital marketing. You have to develop a platform. You have to develop, You have to develop a set, right? Because I have to have a set in St. Louis where I do live interviews. So if I go to, we can do the split screens, but if I want to be face to face with somebody, we'll build a set in Missouri. I'm right now in Orlando, Florida. So this is a home studio. So we'll do the home studio like this. Then we'll go to St. Louis and we'll do live interviews. And that takes time to put together. So as you look around and you see this on, what are we, April 15th, tax day?
Yeah, tax day.
If you look at this a year from now, you're going to see me everywhere. You're going to see me on all of your feeds. You're going to, so like and subscribe. I guess good time for that.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe, right? So if you're on YouTube, if you're on Rumble, if you're on X, if you're on Facebook, we're going to do everything we can to keep our Facebook page up. They took us down the first 2 days for music that was our music. They took us down for music that was ours. I'm like, wait, if there's something going on with the music, I'd like to know what it is, because my buddy just wrote it yesterday and we've got it on the air today. So
yeah,
really didn't make a lot of sense.
Very interesting, right?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So
I did want to read. Trump just put out a Truth Social post this morning that I
give it
thought,
to me.
Just throw it up there. I know you told me whenever something comes out. So he said, "I'm working very hard with our great speaker Mike Johnson, along with the chairman Jim Jordan and chairman Rick Crawford, to get a clean extension of FISA 702 to the House of Representatives this week. I am asking Republicans to unify and vote together on the test vote to bring a clean bill to the floor. We need to stick together when this bill comes before the House Rules Committee today to keep it clean." I'm not going to read everything, but I just thought it's interesting that we were talking about how it's the uniparty, and then we have the divide, and here we have President Trump. He does this a lot, right? We see it a lot, calling out, we have to unify as the party. We have to unify, and so we have to do this because that's going to unify us. And I think that disenfranchises people who don't want to support maybe something that he's supporting, that are Republicans or that did support President Trump. And so I just found that interesting.
It's a tricky situation because you get yourself into a political box. And I want to explain it like this. The Republican Party thrives off of fear that if you don't keep them in power, you're going to turn it over to the crazy lunatics on the left. I think that's a great political strategy.
Yeah.
But as people begin to evolve in their thinking and they start to recognize this left versus right, blue versus red paradigm is a fraud. It's just fake and phony. It's not real.
Yeah.
It's Fugazi, as they said. What was that movie? What was it? You know what I'm talking about? Where it's
Fugazi.
you know what I'm talking about? Wolf of Wall Street. Exactly.
Yep.
It's not real. It's all again. He was talking about Wall Street at that time, as a matter of fact. How about tying that in together?
Get Jordan Belfort in here to talk about the MMLTP, right?
Yes. But it's just not real. So you don't need to be fearful of the other side because they're really the same side. That's why I went to Jen and I said, Jen, you're a Republican. You're running in the Republican Party. You've been around this game for a long time. If you really believe in Democrat, and I'm not taking a side on that necessarily. I'm a libertarian conservative. When it comes to 50-50, I want people to be free. But if Robb was king and everybody says, Robb, we just do whatever you want to do, I'd be a conservative thinker because I like to protect society. I like our kids to be safe. Right. Yeah. I don't need AI data centers and I don't need the technology to go to Mars because I have no interest in going to Mars.
You don't want to recolonize and move.
I don't want to recolonize. I just want my kids to be safe. I think AI does plenty good for me right now. I don't know how much better it's going to get, but whatever it's doing outside of surveilling me, I'm not really interested in. Okay. I don't need to be surveilled any more than I am. I feel like I'm constantly surveilled. And I just think it is a usurping of the Fourth Amendment. I think it's absurd that the United States citizens will build a prison around themselves and cheer it all because of the problems that their own government created that now they want to solve through constant surveillance. I just think it's ridiculous. So when we're talking about this FISA 702, this is something I've talked about for a long time. This is basically warrantless searches of American citizens that came into effect right after the 9/11 situation, right? So this is it should not be constitutional. Donald Trump talked about this, and we talked about it when we were rooting for Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020. And just like almost everything he's done subsequent to that, he's turned his mind around, and now he's voting the exact opposite of the way he was talking about earlier, right? He wasn't going to take any campaign money. We played that yesterday. Now, and again, I'm not a Donald Trump hater. I was on his campaign in 2016. I hope that he's playing 7D chess. I just hope it plays out that way. But it is very difficult to determine who you're going to vote for when the person that you're voting for has went back on just about everything that they've said because he's playing 5D chess. And as we were talking to one of our guests yesterday, Andy, I said, Andy, maybe it's just as simple as what we're watching. Maybe it's not 5D chess. Maybe it's just I tell people that I'm going to do this. I do the opposite. They are fearful of the Democrats. Therefore, I can do whatever I want because they don't want the Democrats. We have control of the elections. We have control of the currency. We have control of the message. Therefore, we'll let all these people do whatever they're going to do. But at heart, I'm going to line up with, and don't take this again. I have Christian Zionist friends that are, I love them. I think they're wrong, but I love them. And he's just aligning with that portion, with the Mark Levins of the world, the Ben Shapiro's of the world, the Steve, the Howard Lutnicks of the world, the Steve Witkoffs of the world, the Jared Kushners of the world. And I could go on and on and on and on. Those are the people that are making decisions with him. And he even says that. You don't even have to take my word for it. He's given press conferences where he comes back and he says, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, this is what they said when they came back from Iran. And I'm like, and I said about it yesterday.
I know.
Who are Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, both real estate and financial people? Why are they doing the negotiations with Iran at a time of war?
Jared Kushner's rebuilding Gaza, apparently.
Yeah, he's rebuilding Gaza. All right, let's get to that because one of the things I want people to start paying attention to is the rhetoric. What I have, if you're listening in for the first time, I'm going to say this quite consistently until we get where we want to go. Once somebody's got their name out there, I think, I put their number out there. I like that.
That's so funny.
Well, what's that say? I got to see that real
It
fast.
says, let me go ahead and pull that up. I can.
You see the number there?
We the people definitely need people like our good revolutionary Christian sister Jen Olson elected, who has proven track record of being a true public servant.
Oh, that's Brother Bob. That's Brother Bob.
That's Brother Bob?
Yeah, I know Brother Bob.
Yeah, Brother Bob, we the people for solutions.
Yeah.
Brother Bob.
Hilarious. So what I was going to say, and for once, the mind works. When you get to 56, 57 years old, all of a sudden the mind starts to wander on you occasionally.
Squirrel?
Yeah, a squirrel. What I was going to say is one of the reasons you're going to enjoy the show is because I have one of the skills that I have is a recollection for sequence. I talked about this yesterday. You'll like me because I'm not fighting for anything in particular other than what I think is righteous government, constitutional government. I don't take a side Democrat and Republican because I think it's all a fake bunch of BS. So what I try to do is say, okay, what did these people say? Right? What did they say? What did they promise you? And then what happened? Okay?
Yes.
And I do that from the media standpoint too. I check out Tucker Carlson. When we talk about Tucker Carlson, one thing that makes me nervous, and I like what Tucker Carlson has to say lately. I think he's been very spot on as to his analysis of things where other people think he's crazy. I think he's being very common sense oriented. But the thing that got me about Tucker Carlson was when he was asked whether he knew his father was in the CIA, and he said, I just found out about it. I'm like, well, you just found out about it. I'm in business my entire life, not in media. And when I started my podcast, I explained to people that your father was in the CIA. How could I know?
Yeah,
right?
you didn't know.
I know. Yeah. And you not know because I did a podcast explaining how your father was in the CIA before apparently you were even aware of it. Right. Same thing with Alex Jones. Alex Jones does a lot of great things. I think he's the most talented broadcaster behind a microphone in modern history. Rush Limbaugh and himself. Now that might not be your cup of tea because of his beliefs. And I'm just talking about being able to riff for 3 to 4 hours on the radio is a skill set that most people will never be able to understand. You have the concentration and the ability to think of things and explain your point of view for 3 to 4 hours every day is amazing. So I'll just say that about Alex Jones, but his family's from the CIA, right? You have Candace Owens, who everybody loves. And, I'm not saying anything about this situation, but it is very odd. We must at least admit that it's very odd. She got married to a guy who is a power player in the UK.
Yeah.
Before they ever even held hands or had a kiss or did anything like this, which reeks to me of an arranged marriage. I don't know if that's the case. And I don't, it's odd. You'd have to admit you get married.
The same thing that people say about Charlie and Erica too.
Yeah. You get married 10 or 15 days after you meet, you never kissed or held hands or anything else. And now you're married with children. You go, man, that must've been, in this world, that's very trusting. I'll put it to you that way.
Yep.
So when you look at these people that dominate the airwaves, dominate social media, dominate independent thought, is it really independent thought, or is it just to keep you within that bubble? And I want to explain this real fast, and you can say whatever you want, Isaiah. I want to get this out for people that are listening for the first time. Dr. Shiva, if you've not heard of Dr. Shiva, he's the one that explained it to me. I'm going to say this over and over again because I really want people to contemplate it when they're with their families. He said, Rob, and he called him not Tucker, but starts with an F. Carlson, right? And he called him Booby Kennedy, not Bobby Kennedy. And at the time, I was a Bobby Kennedy fan. I liked what he had to say about COVID and the whole thing. And he said, Rob, all of these people, if you could understand it this way. Now, Dr. Shiva, 4 degrees from MIT. He was a cover of Time magazine for writing the code for email when he was in high school. So this is not a stupid person, right? He comes from India. He came here. He ran for election up in Massachusetts. He was the first one that I remember that said his election was stolen through the machines and he could prove it. He would show the algorithms, and this is who Dr. Shiva is. He said, Rob, if you could put everybody in a circle and put every single thought that you have on dot it around that circle, right? Just dot every thought. Donald Trump is a Mossad agent. Donald Trump is the hero of the world. Donald Trump is a Jew. Donald Trump is a Christian. Donald Trump is this. And every single thought you have is in this circle. And then you take all the influencers from the social media sites, the corporate sites, the newspapers, all the way around that circle, right? So every opinion that you could possibly have is a little dot on that circle. He goes, if you believe in those people, they win because they keep the conversation within that circle. Good, bad, truth, false, doesn't matter. And he made a very good comment because he does try to organize people, and I try to organize people. That's why I think everybody hates me in the state of Missouri that is on the establishment side.
Yeah,
I go outside of that circle and I say, well, it doesn't make any sense that if you believe the world's coming to an end, which Alex Jones has been talking about for what, 25, 30 years. He's been saying the world's going to end this week or next weekend for 30 years, right? 30 years he's been talking about it. Why wouldn't you organize people? Why would you not spend your power and your energy to organize people? Why wouldn't you say, listen, in all 50 states, Alex Jones, if you're an Alex Jones fan, we need to raise money anyway. Send me $10 and I'll organize. I'll be in each one of your states. You can come see me. I'll sell you the t-shirts, but we're going to organize within the states to get our elections back, which he said were fraudulent at one time. If we all remember, he's the one that said they were fraudulent, to take care of our elections and to make sure that we have a check, a guard on our politicians and our political parties within the states and the federal government. And I'm going to use my power and my microphone to organize people. Tucker Carlson doesn't do that, right? Alex Jones doesn't do that. Candace Owens doesn't do that. And they have enormous microphones. I'm not saying they're guilty of anything. I'm saying you should contemplate it. And the person who was restricted from all social media sites was Dr. Shiva, who tried to organize.
Wow.
Okay? He had millions of people on X. He's down now. I think if he puts out a post right now, he might get 3,000 people.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, that's.
I got more influence now than Dr. Shiva, and he's much more accomplished than I am, and he's going to get this situation solved for quite some time.
It sounds like the Robb Carter Show is going to be the only show that's on the airwaves, the internet, that's actually going to. I just lost my train of thought.
Well, we're going to get Dr. Shiva to do it.
Yes.
That is trying to organize people and
organize people and take action. That's what you always keep saying. And I love that. We're taking action.
We're taking action. And that's what makes us dangerous. That's why I don't think people really dig what we're trying to get accomplished. But I want there to be so many of me. I want there to be a lot of people that say, wait a minute, this government is not getting the job done. There's way too much anxiety in our world. There's way too much addiction to prescription drugs in our world. There's way too much power just taken for whatever reason people want to take it within our government. And we have to recognize that. We cannot allow all of these systems of surveillance to continue on. There has to be repercussions. So if they're going to say they're going to monitor you 24/7, then if they use that against you in any way, shape, or form, if somebody hacks it and sends out a picture of you making love to your wife or something of this nature, then the penalty must be absolutely severe to where there is no chance that anybody within government or anybody that could hack a government could get away with it.
Yep.
Because if it's even if you say we're the system to do it and it can't be hacked, then if it's hacked, then you have to pay the person.
Yes.
That makes sense?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
So you got to protect the citizens. It is your government. Your job is to protect us.
I know. It's for the people.
It's for the
people. I loved what you were saying about the influencers earlier, because that what you hit on the head is actually what I was going to be talking about. Because if you go on X, I'm sure you see, and it sounds like that's what Dr. Shiva was talking about too. You go on X, you see the MAGA influencers praising that we went to Minnesota and that we're doing all this border stuff and we're deporting the illegal immigrants and we're doing so great. And then we shift gears and President Trump says, oh, well, we're going to withdraw from Minneapolis. We're going to reassign Greg Bovino. We're going to do these things. And then all of a sudden the influencers shift to support that. And so it's whatever, that's what I was talking about earlier. It's like whatever he says is good is
Gunther Eagleman and Insurrection Barbie and
exactly. I didn't want to name any of them, but
they're just paid, they're just paid influencers. They're frauds. If you listen to me, if you want to send me a few $1,000 to make a post,
$7,000 from Israel.
You want to send me $7,000 to make a post? I wouldn't personally. I wouldn't do it. But just think of how many people would, if you just get attached to a political person or a political party, and they say, "Listen, whatever we're going to do." That's what they did to me, by the way, Isaiah, because that's how this whole thing started. Was when I got on Donald Trump's campaign in 2016. There was this elderly lady. I took my daughter up there to sign up for the Trump campaign, and she said, "Rob, will you knock on doors?" And I said, "No, I'm not going to knock on doors." I was an executive at the time. I had very little time.
Yeah.
And they said, "Will you make phone calls?" I said, "I'm not calling strangers on the phone. No, I'm not going to do that either." And she goes, "Well, are you on social media?" And I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, Facebook primarily. And I said, I think we have a Facebook account, but at that point, I'd never been on it. I mean, I'd never even looked at Facebook. And she said, do you know a lot of people? And I said, well, I know a lot of people. I said, because I'm in the shoe business and I travel all 50 states. So I have a ton of friendships from coast to coast. And she goes, oh, perfect. She goes, why don't you just work on social media for us? And I said, well, what does that mean? She goes, well, Donald Trump will be doing live rallies all the time. He'll put out statements. And what we really want you to do is just push those statements forward and then argue the point of Donald Trump on social media. So we have somebody backing him up because he's going to get attacked on social media. We need somebody to stick up for him. And I said, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And then when I started to do it, all of my friends went insane. I mean, there were people that won't talk to me anymore because I supported Donald Trump. Right. Yeah. It caused more aggravation in my life that I could ever explain to people, but it was real. It actually happened. And here we are. Here we are in 2026. What do you want to do? Do you want to take a comedy break?
Let's do it. Yeah, we're at the top of the hour now anyway, so
let's do a comedy break. So here's the story with the comedy break. We like to do a comedy break to give us a little bit of time to just settle in and let you hear something else. This one is of Sam Kinison. Are you a Sam Kinison fan? Do you know who that is?
No, I've not heard of him.
Sam Kinison, if you were growing up in the 80s. Now, he was very vulgar, so I always say there's no cursing in this, but it's rated R, even though it's on the Johnny Carson show. Okay, so this is Sam Kinison on the Johnny Carson show. So if you're a younger kid, you might remember, or an older person, you remember Johnny Carson. If you're a younger person, maybe not. But Sam Kinison was, I think, widely regarded as the most popular comedian for a short time there in the late 80s. And he went on to Johnny Carson, and I just thought this bit was hilarious. But it's my sense of humor, might not be yours. Again, it's kind of hardcore, but I like to say that even my Christian friends who I love so much, loosen up just a little bit every now and then, have a good time.
Yeah.
It's okay. Nobody's hurting anybody. Everybody recognizes that what he's talking about is just theater and meant to be funny.
Hey, Paul cussed in Greek. Like I said, that's what my Greek teacher told me.
This is not cursing, though. This is just,
I'm just teasing.
He's screaming and yelling and he's making a scene, but it's meant to be comedy. So if you can just laugh at yourself, check it out. This is Sam Kinison on the Johnny Carson show. Absolutely fantastic, in my opinion. We're going to take a little bit of break while you listen to Sam Kinison. Go ahead.
Get that added.
The first time I saw Sam Kinison perform, somebody brought a tape into my office. I laughed so hard, I was hysterical because it was absolutely outrageous. But Sam, believe it or not,
can you turn that up a little bit, Isaiah?
Somebody brought a tape in
on your end
and said, "I want you to hear this." And I didn't know who was singing from him because it was that good. He's a fine singer, and Sam's gonna. Yeah, that's true. And there's a ventriloquist up in the audience there. And he's going to be performing this weekend at Bally's in Las Vegas. He's got a new single coming out. Would you welcome, please, Sam Kinison?
Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart? Does your memory stray to a bright summer day when I kissed you and called you sweetheart? Do the chairs in your parlor seem empty and bare? Do you gaze at your doorstep?
Wait for it, Isaiah.
And picture me there? Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I go back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? You know, I wonder if you're lonesome tonight. I wonder a lot of things. Like, are you human? How do you live with yourself? Are you a reptile with a nice hairdo? You snaky tramp! You lied to me! When you told me you love me, you never loved me! You said forever. Remember that one? Oh, there's a joke, forever! Yeah, forever, honey! Yeah, what does forever mean to you? Till another guy comes in your life with more money and a better car? Oh, I'm sorry. We better break up. I'm not growing as a person. We need to get away from each other. Oh, that was a great idea. Yeah, let's break up, honey. Did you grow any? Are you any taller? I'll tell you what you learned. You learned how to break my heart. But I'd rather go on hearing your lies than to go on live without you. That's how sick I am. Well, I'm standing here. The stage is bare. Oh, I can't say it. You know what you did. You know what you did. You were wrong. Say it, you stupid, stubborn pig. I was wrong. Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? I hope you do. Is that romantic? Is that romance?
That really brings a tear to your eyes.
Does that take you back?
That's what love is all about.
You know the funny thing is, there's like 7 girls out there right now that think I'm talking directly to them. Every one of them is going, I know it's me. I know he's singing that to me.
Sam, you are deeply disturbed. You know that.
Yeah.
When somebody brought me that tape, I'll be honest with you. I sat there and it sounded like a young Presley. And then all of a sudden you went into this thing in the middle and I fell off the couch again. You have a really good voice. I'm not joking.
Well,
where'd you learn?
I used to sing in church. Hard to believe as it is.
Yeah.
That was back there before the big satellite boom. And my parents used to make me sing, but we were goofing around.
You learn in church?
Yeah. I used to be a preacher.
No, I'd heard that.
No.
People,
what were you at? What were you before that? President of your own country, Sam? Yeah.
What kind of preaching? Were you a fundamentalist Baptist, holy roller type of stuff, or what?
Yeah, Pentecostal. I guess holy roller. We're like Baptists, except we could get out of our seats and roll around the floor. So I guess holy rollers are pretty close.
If you were doing some preaching, and this was your congregation, what would you?
Oh, it was very fiery. It was very, I don't know about you, but when I woke up this morning, somebody told me, you don't have to lose. You don't have to be defeated. You can change your life. That kind of stuff. Guys would see and stuff just from the excitement. I think I see something's going on here.
It is almost hypnosis, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
Why'd you give that up? I mean,
well, I got a divorce when I was, I got married when I was 21 to a lovely girl that I'm sure is watching, thinks she's one of the 7. And
that's pretty young to get married.
Yeah, it was a dumb move.
Yeah. And that just didn't work out?
No, I know.
Was that when you were the preacher?
Strange things to you, but it didn't.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
I feel like I'm sitting with Yoda. You will learn, great Sam. You will learn.
21's pretty young to get married. Was she young?
Yeah, she was young. She was 19.
Yeah, not show business.
No, man. It's very hard to say some of the things you'd like to say, Johnny.
Within reason.
Within reason, yeah. But I was 23, and I've been ministering for about 5 years, and it wasn't a good thing to have in your spiritual resume. The marriage hadn't worked out, and I got disillusioned. And I said, "Hey, it's time to go into comedy." See if I could,
Did you?
Yeah, nice. It's like people expect me to say I woke up one day and went, "Hey, forget the Bible. Where's the party?"
Did you try it again? Did you try marriage again?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask that one. Yeah, I did.
So you're married now?
No, I just got divorced. I just got divorced. We actually separated in '82. And we just now got around to getting a divorce.
What?
And she hired Marvin Mitchelson. I'm a bigger fan of your work now, man. You're the best. Oh, is this guy deadly? You never had to go up against him, didn't you?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you would have remembered.
I would think so.
You would have remembered. I don't want to rattle his chain too much.
But those are painful things to go through.
7 years, man.
Painful things.
7 years. It's like I know she didn't know I was going to make it. It wasn't that.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm just going to hold out till you're on the cover of Rolling Stone, and then I'll file. know, wasn't there? I was like, how did she hold on for 7 years?
Luckily, there's no bitterness, though, huh?
Well, I gotta say, the best thing about being married is that it keeps you from getting married.
Huh? Well, that's true.
That's the best thing.
So you're going to wait a while until you try this again.
I thought the band would like that, yes. I'm going to wait a while. I'm living with 2 sisters now.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So career-wise, things are going good, huh?
It's been an interesting year.
You're an interesting guy. Now, that stuff I saw on the tape was so hysterical, but it's tough to do. Some of it is it's adult stuff, but it's difficult to transfer that to commercial TV, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people trying to, a lot of the comics lately trying to be even more and more vulgar and profane. So I thought, why not in the middle of all this, turn around, try to do some family entertainment like I just did.
Well, this is
something the whole family can enjoy.
That's right.
Something to bring a tear to Walt
strange
Disney's
family.
eye.
Good to have you here.
Thank you,
We'll take a
Johnny.
break. We're coming right back.
What do you think? What'd you think of him? Your voice is down. Ah, look at him.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that was hilarious. I mean,
He was, when I was a young man, I just thought he was the funniest guy. I went and saw him at the Fox Theater in St. Louis.
Okay.
A bunch of buddies of mine. And what was interesting about him is he thought he was a singer. So he really took a Mississippi Queen was a song that he redid. And it was kind of a big thing back in the day.
I love that song.
It was, I just thought he was so funny. I went to the Fox Theater to see comedy. We thought he was going to do comedy. And we go to the Fox Theater, me and a bunch of buddies of mine. We're all excited about it. And he puts on a concert. He gave like 10 minutes of comedy and an hour and 20 minutes of singing. And I remember thinking, what is going on? Is this guy high? Is he drunk? What is going on?
Yeah.
We're here to watch him do a live concert. I mean, that's not what we were there to see. And it was very mixed reaction from the crowd because they were fans of his, but they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to a concert. Yeah. It was very interesting because he ended up, he had a drug problem. And I think he died in a car accident I believe it was in Las Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. He died in a car accident. Wow. And one of the greats, one of those legendary people that, as I say all the time, we talked about it yesterday, didn't we, Isaiah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why people should be worried about fame.
Yep.
Right? When you get famous, the pressures that you cannot imagine. And I'm not talking about
not
me,
what you think.
It's not about me. Everybody thinks it's about me. But when you become famous, you can kind of see just with a little bit of even recognition out in public how things can change for you. You can only imagine when you can't go anywhere, can't do anything because you're famous, and people want your money, they want your time, they want your energy, they want you to pay attention to them, they want to follow you, they want to shake your hands in public, they want to interrupt you when you're having dinner.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that are of the people, right? Because some people just get so wealthy, they just kind of cocoon themselves and they move around in private jets and that kind of thing. But if you're a person of the people, which Sam Kinison was, you start taking drugs, you start drinking, you start trying to numb yourself, and ultimately he ended up dead. Let there be a lesson to all of those young people out there on TikTok going, I want to be famous. I want to get so many likes and clicks.
Yeah, my wife is small town famous because she's a doctor of chiropractic in our town, and I do all of her marketing. So everyone knows who she is because of all the social media marketing that I do for her. And so everywhere we go in town, doesn't matter. Sometimes even if we're out of town, actually, when she was giving birth in St. Louis at Big Mercy Hospital, and we go in for our son, this is about 6 weeks ago, we go in, the nurse goes, hey, are you a doctor in St. Clair? And so,
really?
Yeah, but that happens everywhere here in our town.
Well, you'll get that going. You just had that happen the other day.
I get it for the alderman stuff, and I mean, a lady pulled over, waved me down. Are you the alderman? Pulls over in the car, and we had a conversation, great conversation with her. And so
she's not watching, by the way. She's checking out what you got going on.
Yes, exactly. I hope so.
I didn't get to really talk about it yesterday, by the way. You got a tremendous amount of positive feedback the first show that we did. Dan, who we did the radio show with, was very popular. Dan was not really, politics wasn't anything that he lived in.
I love Dan.
I love Dan too. And he was into music and he was into pop culture. And that was kind of our, he had that kind of smoker's laugh that was very infectious. And I thought that might be a big issue because, you build camaraderie with somebody and now you're coming out with a very young person. And I wanted a young person, FYI. I really preferred somebody that had a different look, a generational look at things, because when I play those old comedy routines and I play that kind of thing, people of my age remember, people of your age won't. And I just think it is one of those things that kind of bridges people. Humor. And this ultimately will be funny. We're going to put the production together where the show has a lot more humor to it, myself included. But we're trying to get this baby off the ground. We're trying to get everybody, you got people pulling on you to do interviews with them already, and we want to get everybody on. We want to get the people that want to come on the show. If you're trying to do the right thing in the state of Missouri, you're going to have a forum here, and you're going to have a forum until you blow it, and then we're going to rip you to pieces. It's a double-edged sword with me, right? If you're telling me you're going to do something, I expect you to do it. When you're a public figure and you determine the outcome of people's lives through governance, I expect you to hold up to your end of the bargain. If you don't, then I'll be your worst enemy. If you plan to do it and you want to go into government and you want to create some trouble and you want to make your voice heard and you're not going to fold under the powerful people within the party and the big donor money and all that stuff, if you fold into that, I'm just going to be a pain in the ass to you. If you don't and you stand up to them and you say, listen, we should have better governance both locally at the state and federal level, then I'll be your best friend. I'll give you the forum from now until forever. Right? I mean, that's fair.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's very fair.
Let's get into a couple news points that we didn't get into because there's some stuff that was going on that I wanted to talk about. One of them was oil prices. When I was saying having a mind for sequential order, this is what I was getting ready to get into. My mind works, and I don't know why. I think it was because I was bounced around as a kid, right? So like if somebody says, I remember when that happened, I can remember, well, I was living there. I was living there in 1980, 81, or I was in this grade, and I can put it together in my mind relatively quick. So when politics started to happen, I was glued to Fox News and glued to those type of operations. Even Rush Limbaugh. These are things that I just, when I was on my free time, it's what I wanted to see. If I go to spend a night at somebody's house, as soon as I got to my room, Fox News came on. I'm as guilty as anybody. So I don't like to get mad at people that watch it. I'm just telling you, as somebody who studied it for 20 years and then had the light go on, I started to recognize it's really not news. It is a narrative that is built through the Republican Party and probably alignment with the Democrat Party. They're just narratives that they build so that you talk about them. Brainwashing at that level is nothing more than creating what you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So when Fox News was the leader in conservative media, they set the agenda as to what people were going to talk about. And what Dr. Shiva was trying to explain to me, I got to get him on. Dr. Shiva, you got to come on with me, my friend. I'm one of your biggest fans. I just think that you were right on the money. Everything you told me turned out to be true. But one of the things that I was getting to was the sequential understanding of
order
information. So now what we're talking about are oil prices. If you remember, we played that clip over and over again where they say, short-term pain, long-term gain, short-term pain, long-term gain. And Fox News and all the Republicans were out on their media saying, okay, the oil prices are going up. I just had a buddy of mine who owns a business. He said, Rob, I'm talking to a friend of mine, and she, not a friend, it was his aunt actually. He goes, I'm talking to my aunt. Donald Trump could do anything in the world, and she'll give you the reasons as to why it's a good thing. And I said, I know a lot of people are like that. I don't know what to say about it. I'm not a Donald Trump hater, but I'd like some understanding of what's going on in my world. And he said, I was trying to explain to her, I own a contracting business. He goes, when the oil and gas prices go up at this level, he goes, it really hurts me. He goes, I'm paying $18,000 a month in gas. He goes, I can't afford it. He goes, he works in this snow removal business. He said, we had no snow last year. I'm sitting on, 14 billion pounds of salt that I didn't get to use. I didn't get to bill anybody for months because that's what I do in the wintertime. So now I've got I've got all this money tied up in salt. And then they raised my gas prices, to, whatever I was paying to $18,000. It's like a $6,000 or $7,000 a month hit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Big companies can take that hit. It's exactly what happened to me when I was running Creative Recreation Shoe Company out of Los Angeles, right? Inner city, kind of a hip hop shoe company. And what happened was during the COVID era, when they raised when Trump was in this back and forth war with China, what happened was our cost to get goods from China to the United States, because that's where all the shoes are built, not because that's where we want to build them. You can't build a factory because of the EPA in the United States. It's almost impossible. Right? So it pushed everybody offshore. So we're making shoes in China. We got to get them back into the United States. And our shipping cost, as I remember, it was about $2,500 to $3,000 to get a container of shoes from China to the United States. Well, during that time, it was between $20,000 and $25,000. Well, it took all the margin out of our shoes. We're basically shipping shoes into our customers and we're losing money.
Yeah. Can't do that.
You can't do that. But what happens in those scenarios that people I think business people are not recognizing. Nike, big companies, they can take that hit.
Yes.
And when they take that hit, it is a short-term pain for a long-term gain, because they took short-term pain to drive all the smaller shoe companies out of the business.
Yep.
And then when they were all out of the business, then we went back to normal standings, and all the oil prices went back down, and you could get your goods back and forth to China, but it drove out all the small people. Right? right?
Mhm.
People are not looking at things through the lens of what the real world has to offer. Okay. So when we get this guy's name is Chris Martinson. It's clip number 1. He's making the argument. This is somebody that's in the media eye. If you know who he is, great. If you don't, I can't help you. But it's somebody that people are paying attention to. And he says that oil prices are going to be through the roof, that we're just beginning to see the effect of what is going on in Iran. I know he says the war's over, then it's on, then it's over, then the Straits of Hormuz are theirs, then they're ours. And I don't think that you know or I know. If you believe that what Fox News tells you and the Republican Party and Donald Trump tell you, great. I don't know that
it's over as of yesterday, he said.
over as
right?
of yesterday. I don't know if that's true or not, so I didn't like to report on it because I have no idea whether that's real or not.
I know.
Just because you want a war to be over doesn't mean that the other side has agreed to that. So we'll see. But listen to what Chris Martinson has to say about oil prices. Clip number 1, if you don't mind.
People have been pushing this around, showing all of these tankers heading towards the U.S. And it's true, but the map kind of always looks like this. There are always oil tankers heading to and from the United States. A reported 68 of that, the OPEC plus configuration, they went from about 33 here, million barrels per day of production, losing 8 million. 8 million barrels per day is now completely missing in action. So the United States is not going to be able to cover that shortfall. Full stop. And the U.S. remains a net importer of crude oil. We do not export any crude oil because the U.S. EIA, a while ago, much to my regret, started confusing all of this and started calling it, oh, but we're a net petroleum exporter, as if petroleum was oil. They're not. They're very different things. So, and these cartoonish things about how we're swimming in oil and we're just going to sell oil to the world. We can't. There's nothing we can do to make up for the loss out of the Gulf.
So
wow.
Goes on to say that oil prices are going to get very high very soon. And I've heard a lot of people in my circles, because this is what they hear, right? They hear, and I don't know the answer to it. So I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I really don't understand how the oil markets work. I'm told that there's a vast amount of oil that is on the market. And when you reduce oil by a certain amount, it's a global market system. So even though the oil is being reduced from one place, it affects the global oil prices, because people go, well, we're not taking any oil from Iran, so who cares? I mean, what's the big deal?
That's what
it's the case. Then why did it go up $1?
Yeah. And
Right?
and I feel like the prices have, so the Strait of Hormuz, and maybe I'm just thinking wrong here. I have no expertise in this, but they say 25% of the oil comes to the Strait of Hormuz. But I feel like there's been more than a 25% increase on gas prices. Personally,
I'd have to look at that.
yeah, because it was $260 or $250, I think, and now we're paying, I think, $380.
Somebody said $350. Somebody sent me a text last night. I said, "What's the gas prices in St. Louis?" They said they were able to get it for $350. It's $419 to $429,
Wow.
depending on where you're
Oh
looking
my
in Florida.
gosh.
And it was $289 before this all started. So
That's what I'm
again,
saying.
you have to look at things. If this is not your lens, right? You have enough money to pay for the gas. Not a big deal to you. You just have to remember that almost 70% of, I think that's the stat that I heard recently, 70% of Americans live check to check.
Yep.
Well, when you're living check to check and your prices on gas, let's say you have to drive 30 minutes to work and back just to feed the kids. Those are real hits for real American families. And you sometimes as a community, whether it be in Missouri or around the country or around the world for that matter, we have to care about one another, right? Just because I was very arrogant. That's why I say that, Isaiah. When I was making $20,000, $30,000 a month, I thought I was king dingling, right? I didn't care about anything but cut my income taxes. Somebody please cut my income tax. I had a buddy of mine. He goes, he was a liberal. He goes, dude, there are so many more things to worry about. He goes, how much money do you need? And so he was mad at me. And, and I argued with him at the time. And I look back and I thought, you know what? He was probably right about that. When I look back and, you're netting, it was a lot of taxes being taken out. I'll be honest with you. And I want that money back because now it's not that same situation. But the reality was there were a lot of things going on in the world. And the thing I was most concerned about was every time I got a check and I said, okay, this is a $24,000 check and I'm netting 16,000 of it. I'm like,
exactly.
Lord, it's $8,000 on my pocket. This is ridiculous.
I know.
And I wanted some answers for
Campaign
it.
problems, right?
Yeah. Problems that everybody would like to have. I'd like to have those problems again, to be honest with you. But
we will soon.
That's
30 to 60 days.
Well, we're gonna reinvest most of our money in. Well, I can't speak for you, but for me, I'm going to reinvest my money into spreading the message and getting People's Lobby peopleslobbymo.com is a Missouri organization. But if you go and take a look at it, the way I see it and what is important to me is that one state gets their act together. I used to say you can't really do things like you can in Missouri because Missouri is so well connected. In Missouri, they ask you where you went to high school, right? It's constantly, where'd you go to high school? Where'd you go to high school? Because you can connect yourself to somebody because of the high schools they went to. Missouri is a different place. It's not like other states. If we were to get something done, if we were to have our government begin to communicate with all citizens, not just within the Republican bubble, but begin to say, okay, you guys want to fix the elections? Let's really talk through this. Let's spend some of our $54 billion budget. Let's get to a school auditorium in Kansas City, in Columbia, and in St. Louis, and let's bring the people in and say, listen, we hear a lot of conversation about elections. How would you guys how can you imagine that these elections would work? And then once we give them a framework, then they have to go make it happen. Right? Because what they have done isn't really getting the job done for citizens who are concerned about elections. So what we want to do is educate, organize, and pressure real change. You can't vote your way out of a system that is rigged, in my opinion. You can't do it. So if you want to keep voting for Democrat and Republican, more power to you. Not mad at you. Go do your thing. But in the back of your mind, you should recognize that despite the fact that Missouri had a super majority of Republicans and it is run completely by Republicans, you'd be hard pressed over the course of the last 20 years to find many conservative things being done in the state of Missouri. And that's on basically every issue. So something's going on. We need to pay attention to it. We need to ask questions. You don't have to get mad at people. Don't have to start fights, but you have to ask your elected representatives to answer your.
And the best way to support the show, if I'm thinking correctly, Rob, the best way to support the show is to actually support the People's Lobby.
Yeah, that's that's the primary sponsor.
Yeah,
you know, it's funny, the perception of me, right? And I think some of it is warranted. When you make a lot of money and that's kind of what your friends know you for, and I'm talking about, it's not a lot of money. We're talking millions. We're talking about a kid that grew up relatively lower middle class, and then all of a sudden they've got a chunk of money to spend every month. It makes you feel like you're a bazillionaire, even when you're just
that was me.
Yeah, right. You start making a little bit of money, and you
$16,000 in a month. You're like, oh my gosh, my mom made $16,000 a year.
Exactly. So you don't understand where I'm coming from. So I made a promise to myself that I would never again make a decision based solely on money. Like money can play. I'm not stupid. I'm not one of these people. But even like when leaving the radio station, right? I thought I'd be able to make more money when I was thinking through it prior to leaving. But when you leave, you don't know whether advertisers are coming your way. You don't know if the social media sites are going to block you. You're basically rolling the dice big time, because I've been out of my previous profession now for 3 years. And in that business, it's like this. It's constantly spinning. It'd be very difficult to go back in, certainly at the level that I was at when I left, right? It's a whole different ballgame with different people.
That's how I feel about tech. It's, I was always on it. I was a LinkedIn influencer with thousands and thousands of followers, talking to the business to business world, training people on these systems and processes. And if I tried to go back to that, I feel like I would be at ground zero, basically, because technology just changes so much, and you have to be on the up and up of all these new platforms and systems and things like that. It's just the rat race. That's the problem that I have with it, is that you're just never done chasing the money. It's never enough. And
your life goes before your very eyes. That's what happened to me. I wonder how many fathers, and maybe some mothers out there, but certainly fathers, how many fathers worked so hard to make a nice life for your children, and when you looked up, they were gone, and they barely even have anything to do with you because they don't think that you were present when you were there. I have a daughter that feels that way about me. She's like, you were always busy, you were always traveling, you were always doing this. And I said, I know, honey, but we had 5 kids. Your mother wanted to stay at home. I'm trying to pay for car payments and school activities and a home and food. And, it was expensive. And it was, and I found out how expensive it was because it was basically gone 2 years after I got divorced. It was
just like that.
Yeah. Just like that. It all evaporated. So I really look at myself now as somebody who went through all of that. I proved to myself that I could do it. I was very proud of my accomplishments within the shoe business, but now I look at things and go, look, I just want to have a happy life. I want to be able to make change. I am not somebody as I was portrayed to be. Jake Jackson says gas stations near him are $3.89.
Yep.
Okay? So that's what they are.
He said earlier too. He said, "Thank God that he connected us," and I agree that.
He's the one that put us together. Thank you, Jake.
Put it together. Thank you, Jake.
Yep. He caused a lot of problems too. Jake gets after some people, and man, does he make some people mad.
He did a great. I meant to mention this earlier about the data centers. He did a great video last night because he gets attacked a lot about reporting on the data centers from people who are pro data center, and he did a great job of a video. If no one saw it last night, go check out his video on his X account, talking about how he is not completely against data centers. He just doesn't like the idea of sucking electricity out, taking water from the people, right, and driving up costs for the people at the expense of a data center. And if they can fix those problems, he said, hey, I'll stop opposing the data centers, right? It's just that they're not fixing those problems, and it is affecting people's lives. And there's a lot of noise that comes from these data centers too that affects people. And so,
and there's no benefit that's been articulated, right?
Money.
There's no real benefit of but that's all they say is you're gonna have a job for a short amount of time, but then we're like, okay, well, now that the jobs are, have been accounted for, and now you're gonna lose jobs because it's basically being run by technology. That's what they tell us they're gonna do. Well, now what happens to us? What is the benefit to the citizen? It's just an AI race because we have to have the AI race because China's building their AI infrastructure. Therefore, I have to be in a race with them, which I don't even know is real. I don't even know if that's real.
And it's like, it seems so similar to the Republican versus the Democrat kind of argument, right? It's just like you were saying earlier, we don't want them in charge, so we have to do this. And we don't want China to win the race, so we have to do this, right? The same.
It's always there's always a straw man. There's always a boogeyman. And there is always something that is worse than what you have now. And I think that's human nature. I think the people that actually understand mind psychology, and we're going to have a guy on, it's the 20th. Oh my God, I forgot to send him Isaiah. So we have a hypnotist that understands how the subconscious mind works coming on the 20th.
Okay.
And I was supposed to send him a Google invite. And as my friend Sherry likes to tell me, the squirrels got in the way.
Yes.
So I completely forgot. But I want to have him in on the 20th because I'm fascinated by propaganda, and I want to hear what he has to say about how you can
we need a squirrel button.
Yeah, we need a squirrel button. I want to find out how people can kind of tap into your subconscious and you wouldn't know. You would never know that is happening to you. That's the whole thing, is everybody thinks they're on their own.
What's the CIA operation? Not Paperclip.
Oh, MK Ultra.
MK Ultra. Yeah. MK Ultra is just amazing to me.
Well, so I just went back and forth. Let me check my messages right now. So I just went back and forth. And again, if anybody's listening to the show, somebody from MMTLP got me lined up with this guy. His name's Tom O'Neill.
Okay.
Tom O'Neill wrote a book called Chaos. It is the story of the CIA and their influence over the Charles Manson story.
I think we talked about that with Andy.
I want so bad to have him on. I did college reports on Charles Manson. I was fascinated by it. I've told this story on the air a few times. When I was a kid, my parents, when Charles Manson, that happened in, I believe, in August of 1969. I was born in November of 1969. Okay. So when that movie came out, it was like in the mid to late 70s. And, back in those days, everything was very communal. Parents were always with their friends. There were people around all the time.
Yep.
And I just remember my parents vaguely, this is the vague recollection, but I remember my parents talking about this movie coming out. I think it was the first time ever, the Charles Manson story. I think it was the first time that they had a 2-part series where they're going to show something for 2 hours. And then the next night they do the finale of it for 2 hours, what have you, called Helter Skelter, which was off of the book written by Vincent Bugliosi, who was the prosecutor of the Manson and the Manson family. So I read the book as a young person, but what got me so crazed about it was they were talking about it and they were telling the story, and they didn't really know that I was listening to it. And I was a very curious kid, as I am now. And I'm listening to this and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see this. So when it came on, they didn't want me to see it because it's the Charles Manson story. So they put me to bed, and I had the way our living room, or the way the situation was set up, I could either hear or see just a little bit of what was going on. So I'm paying attention to this Charles Manson story from my bedroom. And let's just say this, it absolutely captured my imagination as to how freaky it was.
Me too. I lived right down the street from Haight-Ashbury. I was telling you about.
You were telling me that last night. That's right. We brought that up. That's right.
I lived at 160 Haight Street. You can Google it. A ministry owns that building that I lived at. It's an old Victorian mansion, and that's where I found out about Charles Manson. And I said, they're like, "Oh yeah, don't you know about Charles Manson?" But I was like, "No, not really." And they're like, "Yeah, right up the street here at Haight-Ashbury. There's blah 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 and all this stuff." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And I started reading about the CIA and how they were involved, and he's a CIA plant and all this, all this stuff that people call conspiracy.
I'll tell you a brief story about Charles Manson, then we'll move on to some other things, just because I love talking about it, because it blows my mind, the story. So Vincent Bugliosi basically said that Charles Manson was feeding young people drugs. These are young girls that he met on the street in the Haight-Ashbury district, because he was he'd been out of prison. He was a con man, little bitty guy, but he could sing, he could play the guitar. He was giving the girls LSD and giving them weed and this kind of thing. So these hippie girls were attracted to him, and this is how he starts to build this family. Well, the reason that Vincent Bugliosi surmises that Charles Manson began this killing spree, if you remember, with the Tate LaBianca murders in 1969, was because he wanted to start a race war And it was based on the song by the Beatles called Helter Skelter.
Yeah.
People know the story. So he drugs up these young kids. I mean, these were not like loser kids either. One of them was a homecoming queen at her school. The other guy was voted most likely to succeed. He was the college football quarterback, this kind of thing. So these weren't like these kids that were
burnouts.
Yeah, these are the real deal. He was drawing people from all over the place.
Wow.
They said that he orchestrated these murders through mind control through LSD. But the reason that he did it was to start a race war. If you remember in 1969 with the Black Panthers and all the stuff that was going on politically. Okay. So that was the story of Charles Manson as told by Vincent Bugliosi. And he was, that was the story. So this guy, Tom O'Neill, comes out, and Tom O'Neill was working for a magazine. And in 1999, the 30-year anniversary of the Tate LaBianca murders, they wanted him to do an article on just an update from the situation, right? So he begins to write and investigate. And he says when he starts to investigate, he starts to realize the story that Vincent Bugliosi told wasn't the actual story. So he goes on a 20-year journey to do all of the research as to what really went down with the Charles Manson situation. Without having him here to elaborate on it, what he found out was Charles Manson's mother was a prostitute. He got into trouble when he was like 16 years old, and he ended up in and out of jail and then serving a long sentence out in Los Angeles during a time when it was, now we know, during the time when the prisons were experimenting with LSD. They were experimenting with mind control in the prisons, according to the story. So there's a famous Danny Trejo, I think is his name. So Danny Trejo was in prison with Charles Manson, and I'll find that clip if we ever get Tom O'Neill, who's been going back and forth with me. I'd love to have him on. Danny Trejo says he was in prison with Charles Manson, and Charles Manson was able to mind control him so much that they felt like they had went on a heroin trip. He said they had no drugs, but he made him feel like they were on heroin so much so that he said, when I was doing drugs, I would throw up from doing heroin. He goes, when I came out of that spell, I threw up. That's how real Charles Manson made it feel. So he's just talking about the abilities of Charles Manson to,
my goodness,
right, to hijack people's minds. So what he said was going down was that the CIA was controlling him through the prisons, through his parole officer from both Los Angeles, and then he had an office next to a guy named Jolly. I think it was Jolly West was the guy's name. Jolly West. Nobody at the time knew that Jolly West was involved with MK Ultra. They didn't know that, right? This came out afterwards, and the guy, the author of this book, Tom O'Neill, said that he asked to go through Jolly West's material when he passed away. He worked at UCLA. They said, sure, come on. So he goes down, he starts reading these boxes, and he finds communication going back and forth between Sidney Gottlieb, who was the overseer of the MK Ultra situation for the federal government. And he sees things going back and forth between them. And he says Jolly West wrote him an email or a letter. It was a letter because it couldn't have been email at that time, that said, we have perfected the art of memory control or mind control or something of this nature. So if you go back and everybody thinks that's crazy, right? But if you go look at the history, Jolly West was the court-appointed psychiatrist, psychologist, I don't know what it is, for who was the guy that shot Lee Harvey Oswald? What was the guy's name? Jack Ruby.
Yep.
So he was the court-appointed psychologist for Jack Ruby. He was involved with the Sirhan situation. He was involved in some big situations. Sirhan, who was considered the lone shooter of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at the hotel out in Los Angeles. When he goes to his parole hearings, even to this day, he says he has no recollection of the shooting whatsoever. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., subsequent to all of these different stories,
I've heard this.
He came out and said that he now knows that this guy did not shoot his father, that it was a security guard, because the shots from Sirhan came from the front, right?
Yep.
And the shots that killed his father came from behind.
Wow.
So he surmises that it was Secret Service that were supposed to be protecting him that shot him. Now, I don't know that any of that's true. I'm just telling you, these are the stories that are coming out from the people involved. And I find it very interesting.
Super interesting. I just looked up Sidney Gottlieb because I remembered that name. Hungarian Jewish guy.
Yep.
Interesting. And in his youth, Gottlieb was a socialist, joined the Young People's Socialist League while he was attending the University of Wisconsin.
There's so many stories like that
Wow.
we'll riff here for just a little bit because I got other things. But
Yeah.
you'll find this interesting. The guy that shot Reagan, right? So what was that guy's name? Somebody will think of it. But the guy who shot Reagan, when I looked him up, it was the second podcast that I did when I started doing these things.
John Hinckley Jr.
John Hinckley Jr. He was aligned with the Nazi Party. Yeah.
No way.
And his father was a huge
Wow.
contributor to George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, the Daddy Bush, I like to call him. And
Daddy
then you find out that the Bush family, right, was involved
Yep.
in banking, and they were supporting Nazi Germany
Mhm.
throughout World War II.
Yep.
So a lot of these things are connected in ways that nobody really understood at the time, and even people today don't really understand them. And all of the connections that if we had news organizations, we'd have an educated society onto what is really happening.
Mhm.
And instead, what we get is Fox News and CNN, which I think is one of the most destructive organizations. You know,
We get propaganda
you
instead.
get propaganda. Just look how they set it up. The CNN
Mhm.
is the liberal version. Fox News is the conservative version. It's all hypocrisy pointed at each other. You fight for whether you like Sean Hannity or you like Anderson Cooper. You fight.
That's exactly what the
Everything
Nazis
is a
did.
fight between some polar opposite point of view when it's very obvious that it's not that way.
That's how Hitler came to power. People are like, wow, how did he come to power? And no, it wasn't overnight.
No,
You
Hitler
know,
came to power by predicting that the stock market would crash in
Yeah.
America. That's really what gave him prominence.
People think
I
that World War
understand
II is when he came around, but he was already starting in World War I. You know, he was having his beer hall meetings, you
He
know,
was
and
put
getting
in-
out
he-
there.
He was put in prison for trying to overthrow the government
Yeah.
at that point.
And
Yeah.
so it's just interesting when you know the history and you start learning these things, that's what I love about doing this show with you, is that you lived in some of the history, and then your parents might have been in the history, and I'm a little younger, and so I'm trying to learn these things from the people that actually experience them, because just like you said, this was the experience, and then 20 years later we have the actual truth coming out, and this is what everyone believed until this truth came out. And
That's
so,
exactly right.
very interesting.
That's a very interesting point that you make, because my friend Jeffrey Wilson says Thane Eugene Caesar was the security guard standing right behind JFK that shot him. He used the wrong word.
Wow.
Shot that killed them came from to and behind his right ear. So he was shot from behind, and Sirhan Sirhan was, by all witness accounts, was shooting from the front. Right. So that's how I guess they get to these stories. But what you just described is one of the reasons I think people are going to really like the show. All of the things that we believed growing up in my era are turning out not to be true.
Mhm.
When I was growing up, I'll never forget it. I went and saw the movie JFK. JFK was like a 3-hour movie. It surmises all the different ways or all the different organizations that might have been involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. If you haven't seen it, you should check that movie out. Got John Candy in it, got Pesci in it.
John Candy, love him.
It's a very interesting movie, but I remember watching it, and I didn't know all that had went on. I just didn't know that there was that much of a conversation as to what was going on. You don't see the world through that complex lens when you're a young person. You were reading in your history books when you're going to high school and everything else.
Exactly.
The lone shooter was Lee Harvey Oswald,
Mhm.
and that's how you think that the world is, right? You never really
Or
question
that Rosa Parks was sitting on the bus. for real,
Correct.
right?
Another
That was
false
coordinated.
story, right? But it's recorded in history, and then people begin to believe it because that's what they're taught, and they're not questioning authority as they're being taught in high school. So they're not, it's widely accepted by society, and you don't really question it. Well, we're going to find out over time, and why I wish it wouldn't take so long. And that's why I consistently, at the station, they didn't like me talking about COVID a lot. They just thought it was worn out. And I'm like, well, it's not worn out to me. That's why, I want it to be my show and be able to talk about freely what I want to talk about, which was COVID. And COVID to me is exactly like this. You're going to find out because the information's already readily available. You're going to find out that your government and many other governments around the world conspired to sell you the COVID nonsense. You're going to find that out at some point. And for people that don't want to believe that, for me, that's about as much a fact as I can give you. It's so obvious. The third podcast that I did on the old show, Isaiah, was called Data Manipulation. And it said anybody that has ever run a business has somebody come in and try to sell them something, and they're going to show you the stats and the figures and this and that and the other. And when you're first in management, you're like, oh, really? Wow. You start getting excited. Then you get taken advantage of, and now you're skeptical of everybody from that point forward. Well, when COVID was happening, I said, well, how can you possibly How can you possibly believe what they're telling you when they're saying that no matter what you die, so long as they test you with a fraudulent test
Mhm.
and say that you have COVID in your body, you could have COVID, you could get shot in the head. They do a blood test. They say that you had COVID in your system and you died from COVID. And they
That's how
talked
he
about
died,
this
COVID.
openly. Yeah, they talked about this openly.
Yes.
If you had stage 4 cancer and had 8 days to live, but they tested your blood and you had COVID, then they would tell everybody you died from COVID.
Yeah.
And then
I
how
had
did
friends
they,
that were nurses that were telling me this.
and then how did they use those numbers? What they did with those numbers is what the typical media likes to do is sell fear, because they know they know that fear will bring out a reaction in people. We all know
Yeah.
that. People listen to this show know what's going on, but people that
Didn't you
listen-
predict that they would put the death counter on
Yeah,
the TV?
I said,
Yeah.
my wife and I were in where were we at? We were in Tennessee. We were in Nashville, Tennessee.
Mhm.
So I was working, and she went on a business trip with me. We were in Nashville, Tennessee, and I said it won't be long before the death scoreboard comes up, and it could have been a few days, and the death scoreboard was up. And I said, yeah. I said that's. She goes, I don't even think my wife is so oblivious. I don't even think she would even say anything about it. She just figured I knew what was happening and was paying, just believed me at the time.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they came up with what they come up with. They come up with the COVID death scoreboard and then the COVID cases scoreboard. And then every single station, that's why you should recognize that Fox News and CNN are involved in the game. That's why you should know that China and the United States are not enemies with one another, because China is
all happened under Trump too.
Yeah, they sold the propaganda first. China was the one that was selling the propaganda. We were picking it up and blaming it on China, right? And then you go, well, if we're blaming it on China, then they're the ones that are responsible for this mess. And then you find out that all of the money that was spent to do the research supposedly in Wuhan, China, was Dr. Darth Fauci, who became the face of the entire operation under the Trump administration. I was at events, Isaiah. I was at an event for Donald Trump in December of 2020 in Valdosta, Georgia, right? This was after he lost the election, but he had not given up power to Joe Biden yet.
I remember this event.
They were screaming so loud to fire Fauci, Fauci, fire, the whole crowd and roaring, fire Fauci. And Donald Trump took 2 steps away from his microphone, and he came back and he goes, I'll take that into consideration. Then Donald Trump, and this is why people have to at least ask questions. You can love him all you want, but you should be asking questions from him and the people surrounding him, because this is why they don't want to talk to me, I promise you.
Yeah.
After that, he doesn't fire him. On the day before he leaves office, on January the 19th of 2021, the Donald Trump administration puts out their warp speed medals of commendation for all the great work that they did. And then everybody said, well, who gave, the medal of commendation? We hate Fauci. Everybody in the Donald Trump sphere hates Fauci. He's going to bring Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on to run the Maha movement. Now everybody thinks, okay, well, now he's going to get to the bottom of the COVID story. That story's completely gone, and Donald Trump is still getting his booster shots, according to him, right?
Yep.
So this is the story. And then we come to find out when Megyn Kelly interviews Donald Trump, he says, well, I'm not the one who put that out there. I'm not the one who gave him the Medal of Commendations, despite the fact that it came from the White House on January 19th of 2021, the last day before Donald Trump is removed from office and replaced with Joe Biden. Wouldn't you ask if you're Megyn Kelly? Wouldn't you ask, well, then who did? Is that not a question that nobody would think of? What journalist out there, if you're a journalist, if you went to journalism school or have anything to do with journalism, if the president of the United States says that a document coming from his White House while he was the president of the United States is something that he did not put out, that it was put out by somebody else, wouldn't the natural question from Megyn Kelly or anybody else surrounding Donald Trump in the media eventually ask him, well, then who did put it out? You were the president of the United States. It's coming from the White House. Who put that information out there? Because your fans and the people that support you are not lovers of Anthony Fauci. So when we see him getting a Medal of Commendation from your White House, it kind of makes us go, well, wait a minute, are you behind this or not behind this? I don't know. Explain to me what happened. And he doesn't do it.
Just logical questions, right?
Logical.
Just like logic is just thrown out the window there. I looked back here because I have a book on my shelf called Never Split the Difference by his name's Chris Voss. I highly recommend, especially if you're in business or sales, to read his book, because he was an FBI hostage negotiator. And he talks about techniques, how to get people to keep talking. And I feel like it's a good one for an investigative journalist too, because he teaches you just different techniques to get them talking. And we talked about this off the air, but a good salesperson is an investigative journalist, because they're asking so many questions.
You got to find out what they need to tell you.
The information.
Yes.
And so even from my viewpoint of not being trained in investigative journalism at any school or anything like that, but being a trained salesperson and knowing these things of how I get the information from the other individual, I would just think that would be one of the most logical questions that you would follow up with.
Piece of cake. And this is what I mean about the Dr. Shiva. When I was talking to him about this, I was asking him about people in the public eye and is there anybody to trust really? And he called him, I told you Tucker, but starts with an F. That's right. I'm trying to be PG. Right. And I said, what is going on with all of these people? And then he said, so long as you can contain the argument, right? So long as you contain the argument, you're going to be fine. So long as they control the argument, you're golden.
Yep.
You can't do that if you're going to ask a bunch of questions. That's why people like Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson, all these people ask just enough questions to make you go, yeah, they're right. But not enough questions to get to the full answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, I feel like
just enough questions to pique your curiosity, make you nod your head. Yeah. But they never ask the questions that would get an answer or press them for an answer. I don't know if it's fear. I don't know if it's coordination. I don't know what it is. But if I get an interview and my uncle tells me that he has dreams that I'm going to interview Donald Trump at some point, Uncle Roger, I hope you're right. Well, maybe I got Uncle Roger playing. I used to play him on my radio show. He likes to do karaoke.
Okay.
So if you're listening, Uncle Raj or Charlene, maybe we'll do their music to start the show because he thinks he's a rock star. He's absolutely fantastic.
That's amazing.
But so long as you don't ask the questions that turn the tables like I would do, if I'm getting an interview with Donald Trump, I'm starting with COVID because COVID is where I went, what the hell's going on around here? What's happening? I don't understand what's happening here. Everybody knows this is a con job. I mean, how can
you know what he would do? He would stand up and walk out of the interview because he's done it already so many times.
Has he really?
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen him do that.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I've seen interviews where he's like, all right, we're done. Yep. And
even on the COVID situation?
I'm not sure about COVID, but just when he's pressed and he's
what if I told him I loved him more than anything in the world first?
I know. I think he likes to be, and this is what I feel about the news stations is that I feel like when they're coming on the air, they've already given them the questions and the line of
a lot of people ask for the questions.
Yeah. And I feel like there's the line of questioning that they already are prepared with. And I think that's what the president wants. Being in his position, I could understand that.
I do too. I do.
I can understand that. And so, but as the people, we want to know the answers. And so we're going to ask the questions. And yeah, I've seen him get into many contentious situations with journalists where he doesn't want to continue an interview or things like other people in his administration too, that just don't want to continue interviews. What's Sidney Powell, right?
Yeah, Sidney Powell.
Yeah,
I'd like to get her on the air.
Yeah, she walked up out of an interview too, and they had to convince her to come back and sit down and continue the interview and things like that. And so I think it's a sensitive situation, and they don't want us to get to the bottom of it.
Right, but you're not asking for war locations, and I can understand you're in a military operation. You can't ask too many questions because there is some national security implications. But people have to at some point start to recognize this. In my opinion, the United States government asked you to stick a needle in your arm with a concoction that they didn't know what it was, and it wasn't just the Democrats. And it wasn't just the Republicans. It was also the media, sports leagues, major corporations. They told you that you were a murderer.
Schools
were closed, right? Churches were closed down because of Roberts, the Chief Justice. He shut these things down. So did the Amy Coney Barrett. She shut down the University of Indiana because they said they wanted to shut down, and because the people were protesting against the shots. They're not protesting, but challenging, right?
Yep.
So you have a situation where your government, you're worried about Iran and you're worried about Russia and you're worried about all these other things that are going on in the world. Your government, you have to remember this, because if this doesn't ring true to you, then then how do we have a conversation moving forward if you're not recognizing at least this particular part of the equation? Your government, by their own admission, asked you to stick a needle in your baby's arms, your arm and your newborn baby's arm,
effective,
with a medicine that they didn't even know what was in it. No research that was released to the public at all. In fact, Pfizer wanted to hold on to it I was told 75 years. Somebody recently said it was like 50 years, but Pfizer wanted to hold on to the information about how their trials went and everything else for 75 years. 75 years.
Then we're all dead.
Yeah, we're all dead. It's kind of like what happened with Kennedy. Remember,
Yeah.
Donald Trump said he was going to release all the files on Kennedy. He released all the files on Kennedy. You could look through there. You could see there's definitely a relationship with the people that were running Israel at the time and our own
Yes.
intelligence agencies. And everybody went, well, it's Israel. They're our greatest ally. So what could possibly go wrong? That's why I bring on these people from the USS Liberty. We'll have
Yes.
them on again soon.
Very excited.
I believe we're committed to doing a something with him in Missouri in June, where this USS Liberty is a situation where you have a ship bombed, according to these people that were there and watched it and saw it, by Israel. Now, Ben Shapiro says they're all liars. They're all in their 80s and they got nothing to gain from it other than telling a story that they were told not to tell. But then you got guys like Ben Shapiro saying it was all a big mistake when these guys said, no. They flew by. We could see their faces. We were waving to them. They knew that we were an American ship. We had a flag waving high.
Yep.
They bombed our ship and killed 34 crew members and wounded many, many more because they intended to sink the USS Liberty to the bottom of the ocean, blame it on another country so that the United States could have, what's the word for it? So they could have a little commitment to the war, if you will.
Yep.
Right? That's what it was.
Get bought more into it, right?
Yeah, just buy into this war. And nobody's
We
going to
just
do
hit
anything about that.
2,000 live viewers, by the way.
Nobody's going to do anything about it, even at this late date.
Wow.
Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Can I go through my sponsors real fast?
Of course, yeah. 2,000 live viewers right now. Thanks for joining, everyone.
What do we got? We got, let's run through this. We got 8 minutes. Let me start with somebody that's been with me for a long time. So if you're in the Missouri area and you need air or water filtration, all right, you can pull up joneswater.com.
I'm on it.
Everett has been a longtime supporter. I think he supported me before anybody else did. When I very first started, he gave me a call and said, I want to be behind you. He's been a good friend of mine. I've spent time with him and his family. Everybody that does business with him says very nice things. He gets products that he thinks are really good. They're not spread out into the world. He gets the really nice stuff, and you'll like him as a person. But Jones Water, jonesairandwater.com, 636. So if you need an air filtration system, right, for your home, if you need a water filtration system, which again, we get into people getting sick a lot, right? When you get into media, you hear about people are getting sick all the time. Is it the chemtrails in the sky? Is it the water? Is it the air? Is it the food? I would submit to you that it's all of it. But the first thing you should do as a parent, especially if you have young people, or maybe your parents, or maybe you're 40 and your parents are living with you when they're in their 70s or 80s or whatever, toward the end of life. I don't mean that you're dying, but I mean toward the back half of the operation here. You want clean air and clean water, or you're going to get people sick. You can't drink the water that's coming out of your faucet anymore.
No.
I mean, come on. It's like drinking water from Mexico nowadays.
Yep.
All right. Joneswater.com. You got his website up there?
Yep.
636-899-1040. 636-899-1040. Every time you do business with one of our advertisers, I hear about it. It means the world to me. I think my advertisers are with me through thick and thin regardless, but even if they're not, they've been so good to me so far. You got to do some business with these people. There he is right there. Everett at joneswater.com, joneswater.com, 636-899-1040. As he likes to say, you'll be the filter or you'll buy the filter, joneswater.com. All right.
One of the best. Be the filter or buy a filter.
He's one of my favorites. Can we do Moe's Pizza real fast? Because I want to get Moe's Pizza out there. Moe's Pizza, I'm going to do a
best pizza buffet in town.
Just the best people in town, too. So we're going to do an event with Moe's Pizza on Cinco de Mayo. So instead of eating tacos, we're going to eat pizzas that day. And People's Lobby, Missouri is going to, I got to figure out how to, what we're going to do from a financial standpoint. But I think we're going to, like the first 40 or 50 people that come in, we're going to buy their lunch for them. All we want to do is spread the love. They've been fantastic to me. Mike Johns and his wife have been so fantastic to me that I want to make sure that the people that listen to this show, if you believe in good governance and you believe in good people who stand up strong, they hold all of the meetings for people. They've been so good to the political arena and the Republican Party and people that are challenging the Republican Party. They just say, go out there and let's have some meetings. Let's get people talking about it. And let's solve our own problems. Moe's Pizza, great pizza and salad bar. And when I was leaving, Brenda, his wife, said, Rob, get a scoop of ice cream. I love
you
ice
cream. Have to.
I love it. So they hand me the scoop of, or she gives me the scoop of ice cream, and I get out into the car. I'm like, damn, this is good. I should have got 2 or 3 scoops of this ice cream. I'm an ice cream connoisseur. I swear to you,
yeah.
when it comes to ice cream, my wife will tell you that's one of my, if you take ice cream out of the equation, I don't know if I can survive it very well. I love ice cream, and their ice cream is fantastic. It's a landmark. It is a landmark in Washington, Missouri. It is at the corner of Grand and 5th Street. Everybody in the area knows about Moe's Pizza. Get out there, support them. I'll be out there on Cinco de Mayo doing a live show and making sure that the first 40 or 50 people that come to the door, People's Lobby, Missouri, will buy your lunch for you. Okay. Well, we'll figure out the total numbers here as we get a little bit closer. All right. That's Moe's Pizza. Let me get to my good friend Mitch. I saw that he was in the app earlier. Now, Mitch has been an advertiser with me for quite some time. I think it's been almost a year. He has an operation called rocketcareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com. He and I went to school together. I had not seen him since I was like 16 years old. I get a message from him one day that he wants to support me. He ends up doing advertising with me for the last year. So if you're out of work, can't find a good job, coast to coast. So this is a national advertiser. So this is coast to coast, wherever you're at in the country. If you hate your job or if you're out of work, you know who you are. There's got to be some people out there that are working today that just can't take another day of that boss that's driving them crazy or getting up at the wrong time of the day. There's my buddy Mitch right there. An absolutely fabulous guy, wonderful guy. If you're out of work, if you hate your job, go to Rocket, ROCKIT, IT like rocket, ROCKIT careers.com, or you can reach them by phone at 636-778-2419. And then the last thing I'll say about rocketcareers.com, if you are if you're a business, if you're a small to medium-sized business, the big businesses always have human resources, Isaiah, but if you're a small to medium-sized business and you just don't have the time to go out and find the right person, how lucky was I to run across you, right? If it hadn't been for you, I couldn't have put this together so fast. And if I'd had went out and hire somebody, I would have not known how to do it. I would have been in a mess because I had so many things to do. I'd have had to go to rocketcareers.com to find somebody that would work with me, right? Rocketcareers.com. If you're a small to medium-sized business, you don't have a human resources department, or they're just not putting the right people before you, lean on rocketcareers.com. They'll find the right they know how to vet people. They're not like the Republican Party. They know how to vet their people. They'll vet their people, and they'll put the right person in the right position for you. Rocket, ROCKIT careers.com, 636-778-2419. And next one is gracehauling.com. Okay. This is my man, Gary Schneider. A lot of these people are involved in the political equation. And the reason I'm so excited to have them working with me is I happen to just love these people. You know what I'm saying? You like to work with people that are in this for the right reason. Grace Hauling, he said, Rob, when I said, what do you want me to say about your business, Gary? And he goes, I don't know, what? And I said, well, just give me one, give me something to stick to. So when I'm giving a live read on the air, this was during the radio days, I said, what do you want me to say about your business? And he said, Rob, he goes, but for the grace of God, it would not have such a thriving business. And I don't even think he wanted me that to be the tagline, but I've said it ever since. I said, but for the grace of God, he would not have such a thriving business. gracehauling.com. If you're a residential customer in the state of Missouri or in the St. Charles County area, they do trash pickup, recyclables, yard waste, you name it, they'll take care of you. And bulk pickups are the big one. When you're moving, you always have a fridge that you're going to throw away or something you've had in the garage forever and it's just too big. Grace Hauling will take care of you, and you'll love doing business with gracehauling.com. Outstanding customer service, competitive pricing, 2, 4, 6, and 8 yard dumpsters for any commercial business. gracehauling.com, 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 and my good friend Gary Schneider. And then last but not least, I think that's it. Yeah, last but not least, no, I got Valvoline here too. I got 2 more. I had 4 more advertisers call me when I left the radio station. Can you imagine this? I was
wow.
Yeah, you and I were talking about that. I said, who would have ever thought that was going to happen? I was worried just the opposite was going to go down. Carrington Financials, my man Rick Babbitt. Now, he'll be a guest on the show multiple times because can we get the most pizza jingle? We can't play it. It's proprietary. You can't do anything on podcasts. I'm with you, brother. I apologize too. We can't do it. They'll take everything down. We're going to figure out a way around it. Maybe I'll have my buddy do some music for us, but we're going to figure out how to have a good time. The whole idea is to bring you information, talk about things that you might be interested in, make you chuckle every now and again. I might even make you laugh because I'll lose my temper at some point. I just get frustrated with the political scene. I gotta let it ride every now and again. Isaiah, what am I going to tell you? But my man Rick Babbitt, he is another one who heard me on the show, called into the station, said I want to get behind this guy, and he has been a long time advocate of what I'm doing and just an absolutely terrific guy. He's a genius. I'm telling you, this guy's a genius when you see one. When you talk to somebody, you have a frame of reference on everything you talk about. That's this guy, Rick Babbitt. His number is 314. It's yourcaringadvisor.com. Yourcaringadvisor.com. Rick Babbitt. His number is 314-671-0525. 314-671-0525. He's done great for me. All right. I think this is his whole firm. So that's not, let me see if you get a picture of him. Let it scroll up. Let me see if we find a picture.
Let's see here.
Yeah, there he is, right
There
there.
he is.
That handsome mug, Rick. I
Look
know
at
you're
that
out there.
smile.
He's on vacation, but I guarantee he's checking it out. So that is Rick Babbitt's. He is, like I said, you're loyal to people that are loyal to you. Been very loyal to me. Biblical principles with your money. Biblical principles with your money. He's done great for me and my wife. When the stock market started to get a little shaky there, I was doing a show. He called my wife and he said, listen, you need to get into this, and this right away because my algorithms tell me the stock market's going to go down. At the time, I think the stock market was like 49,000, and within a few days, it went to 46, 45. Saved us a lot of money, and I appreciate it. And I like to remind people, when you have somebody that understands politics and finances and history, that is somebody you should give a first, second, or third opinion to. I say, no matter what you're doing, if your friend is controlling your finances, talk to Rick Babbitt's, see what he has to say. I think you'll like him. Financial planning expert, Rick Babbitt's, 314-671-0525. And then last but not least is my man, Tony Clark. Tony Clark is, again, somebody who sought me out when I was working at the radio station. Him and his wife have been fantastic to me. They come to some of our events. Valvoline Express Care. Valvoline Express Care. I think it's Valvoline-Express Care. Valvoline-Express Care is the way you're going to find it, Isaiah. As he likes to say, when you go to get your oil changed, a lot of times people are going to come out and they're going to show you the air filter. They're going to show you this. They're going to show you that. And they try to pressure you into getting things. They don't want to do that. He said, Rob, I don't want to do that. I've been in this game a long time. I worked for another retailer. I got my own business, and I know that it irritated people. We didn't like doing it. So we'll show you. If you need a new air filter, we're going to say, hey, listen, tell me what you want to do. You want me to leave you alone, or do you want a new one? Because that's, part of the gig. He said, but 15 minutes from bay to on your way. You come in, you're going to get friendly people. They're going to change your oil. It's going to be at a competitive price, and you're going to be on your way very quickly. The worst thing in the world is to go into some of these locations and you got 45 or 50 minutes, especially if you're in business or you're trying to do it on your lunch hour. It's very difficult to sit for some of these, the lengths to get your oil changed. 15 minutes from bay to on your way, no appointments, no sales pressure, all Valvoline branded products. And if you don't look it up, if you can't see it on the screen and you're from the St. Charles County area or just in the Missouri area in general, Warrenton is where he has a location, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, St. Peter's Parkway, Mid Rivers Mall Drive, Troy, Illinois, and Lime Ferry Road. Valvoline Express Care, Valvoline-expresscare.com if you want to check them out. My friend, my good friend, Tony Clark. Okay. I think that's all we got today. In the future, we'll space these out. I don't know how I want to do that. We should talk about that on the air. Should we space these babies out, or should we do them at the top of each hour? I want to give people their due, but I don't want to cut up the show. That was one thing that irritated me about the radio that I just couldn't get away from, was reading your advertisers on air, and then subsequent to that, having all of these breaks. And I was like, I want to talk.
Do you want us to do the live, audience? Let us know. Send us some messages maybe on X. Do you like the live ad reads? Should we record some ad reads and play them? I know Rob's not a fan of that, just to let everyone know. He's not a fan of the recording, but we're asking you guys, we're asking the audience. What do you guys want? I like showing the website personally. I like
showing the website while I'm talking over
personally and showing everything off. And even on the Valvoline website, I was super surprised. They had a picture of the price board on the website, which is cool. That's really, really cool. So I like this, what we're doing, where we're just organically going into it. I think it would be good to do maybe at the top of the first hour. That's just thinking off the top.
Well, I think you're going to get more people there. That's why I'm doing it this way, because I told all the advertisers, I said, listen, we start May 1. I'll give you the advertising. We didn't do it the first couple of days because we wanted to make sure. You said today we're up on all the on all those platforms.
Someone asked if we're on YouTube, and yes, we are on YouTube.
We're on YouTube. The Robb Carter Show. So just go to the Robb Carter Show on YouTube and Rumble, right? So the Robb Carter Show on YouTube and Rumble, and then we're on X. A lot of people are checking us out on X. It's at. Can we get up the link tree real fast?
Oh yeah,
so we can get up the link tree.
Yeah.
So we'll put up the link tree, and you can see where we're at. We're going to be on Spotify now. So we had a big Spotify audience. If you go back to the old days, I mean, you look at what people were saying about our podcast in the very beginning days. It was overwhelming. I can remember reading some of the reviews on our podcast back in the day. I'm like, just can't believe that I'm getting this kind of response as some guy that was in the corporate shoe world for his entire life. Now I can tell stories a little bit because that's, it's part of sales. You know how it is, Isaiah.
Oh yeah.
But I had no idea the kind of reaction that I was going to get. So I was so fascinated by it. And then I have one on there. It's a buddy of mine. I gotta play that. We got to pull that up tomorrow. It's a friend of mine that I was with for 20 years. I started supporting Donald Trump, and from the time I started supporting Donald Trump, he hated my guts. I mean, not just like we have a breakup. Like he wanted to destroy me.
Oh.
He would put these negative comments about me being thinking I'm the smartest guy in the room. I think he said in one
Oh
of
my
them,
gosh.
I was a thief. He said, I said a thief in another one. He sent a message into the company that I was the president of out in California after January 6th, right? Because I went there to
Oh
report
my
on. I was doing a
gosh.
podcast and I said, I'm going to January 6th to tell you what I see. He sent a message through our website that called me an insurrectionist a-hole. I think he spelled it out. I can't remember. An insurrectionist a-hole. And I said, so the woman that ran human resources for us comes in and she goes, do you know somebody? And she reads off the email. And I said, yeah, that's an old friend of mine that hates my guts now. She goes, check this out. And she shows me the email. And I'm thinking, does he understand that I'm the one that he's sending it? You're going to the top person? I mean, what is he? I don't understand. Does he not understand what's going on around here? Yeah. He's complaining about the president to the people that work for the president who are going to hand it to me that I'm already friends with. And I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? But this is what people went through when they supported Donald Trump. That is why it's a little bit testy for me when you lose your best friend, your family argues over it, your friends start to look at you in a different light because you're supporting Donald Trump. And then all of the things that you wanted him to do are now, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think I have, as a citizen, have the right to question some of it. So here we go. This is the link tree. Where can they find this at?
Yeah. So if you do, I'll have you throw a link on your X today.
Okay.
And after the show, we'll have you put a post out on your X with this link, but it is in my bio right now. If you go to my X profile, if you at Isaiah Asher, ISAIAHASCHER, and we're going to get it in Rob's profile too. But the link in my profile right there goes to this link tree. There's all the links that you need or want to find that's ever associated with us. You can support the show if you just want to donate directly to the show, but we would prefer you go donate to the People's Lobby of Missouri.
PeoplesLobbyMo.com. Is it on there?
PeoplesLobbyMo.com. Yep. You just click this link. It'll take you straight to the website. Click any of these links. You can find all the ways that we have the show out there on the internet. And then if you're interested in advertising and you don't have Rob's phone number.
Can I say this before you go too far? I just want to, because this happens to me on occasion. If you want to advertise with me, I'm a little bit different in the way I do this.
Yep.
I try to tell people, don't get mad at me. But if I'm advertising for whatever, and you want to come in, that category is already chosen, number one. And number two, you got to, if I know you and you're coming through friends of mine or people that I know, you got a much better chance.
Yep.
If you're trying to just reach out to me because you want to do some advertising and I don't know you,
you got.
I'm going to get to know you. Yeah, I'm going to get to know you before we do this. And I tell people that not out of arrogance in any way, shape, or form, but out of my audience trusting what I have to say. Right? When I start to sell somebody, it's because they've made an impression upon me, and I want their business to be successful. I don't want to just advertise anybody that says, Rob, I'll give you some money and I'll advertise with you. It could be some, and it happened to me one time. One advertiser took advantage of some friends of mine. I said, no, I won't do that anymore. I mean, I was so excited to get an advertiser when I first started. I'm like, oh, great. You know what I mean? And then they took advantage of the people that I cared about and I felt terrible about it. That will not happen again. Better not happen again.
Yeah. That's why we need the support of the people. Like we've been talking about we need the people to support us. We need the audience to do what they can to support the show. That if we can get the army of people that are watching and that will continue to grow to support the show, as many other shows are supported by their audience, that allows us to not be beholden to the advertisers. You know, it allows us to not have to go. It's a lot of effort that Rob has to go through to, I guess, filter in through these advertisers that are interested, and he has to meet with them and talk with them, and it's not just one conversation, because like Rob just said, he's not just going to throw up someone because they have a gold company and they're going to pay us money, so we're going to throw up their ad.
You know how many people have told me to do that?
I know.
They've not offered
great
anything.
Example, I think, is everyone sees it on the
But nobody's offered to do the gold with me. But everybody has told me you got to get a gold. You got to get a gold. I'm like, I don't know anything about gold. I'm not really a financial advisor. If somebody wants to do gold, I would.
People are gifting us. People just donated money on Rumble right now. There's a couple.
Thank you. I appreciate
thank
that.
you so much.
I sent that over to Rick Babbitt's. If somebody wants to get into gold, he knows about it. If I'm pitching you on gold, I have no idea anything about gold, but I have somebody who does. So I would send you off to Rick Babbitt's, who does financial planning for this particular show. Yep. Is there anything else on the agenda today? I got a lot of things we didn't get through, but
and share the stream. Be sure to share it out on your own profiles. I've seen a lot of people sharing it on X and such. So be sure to share it out. Even when the show's over, post a link on your profile. That's the best way we can get the message out there to the people to let them know. We're going to be doing our own work internally to get clips made, to start pushing out the message out there so more
Cameras.
people find the show. We're getting new cameras. I already got feedback that you seem a little hot today. I think it might be your shirt because you
It is. Well,
yeah.
it's the light, and I'm oily and everything else. As I
Yeah,
told you
yeah.
before, I
And
said
so-
I got to get a knot on my face over here, and it's I don't understand it. You know, I mean, you get older, you think that stuff would go away.
I know.
I always feel bad when I do that. But you think the stuff would go away, but here we are again, and I got the spotlights on me. I'm sweating. It's the whole thing. But we're going to figure all of these things out. That's why I told advertisers when I first started talking to them, I'll advertise for you for free until we get to May 1 because you've been good to me. I'll return the favor. When we get to May 1, we want to have our act together. We want to have, we're going to go back and forth to St. Louis. St. Louis is where I want to have a studio where we do live interviews. So I'm going to bring in somebody that's going to be a face-to-face interview, whether it be a politician or somebody. It doesn't always have to be about politics with me. One of the things people loved about the show was the pop culture version.
Yep.
We're going to break it up and talk about everything that is interesting, right? We're right now in politics because that's the groove I came out of when I was in radio. But there are so many things that entertain me. We're going to make this an experience where you're learning about what is going on in the world. You're questioning things that are going on in the world, and we're going to have a good time doing it. We're going to laugh. We're going to build a community. We're going to get to know each other.
Play Johnny
we have
Carson
big things in store. Yeah, we'll play Johnny Carson clips of Sam Kinison, which I mean, say you never even heard of him before. Now you have a new experience.
I didn't even know who he was, and
Yeah.
so now I know. I'm very interested. I love old comedians like that because I grew up with Chris Farley.
That's
And
probably one
when
of my
he-
favorites.
Yeah, when he passed away, you know, you don't think that a celebrity would have an impact on you, but that was the first time I was like, man, this guy had an impact on me. And I didn't even realize it
Look
until
what
he
Fame did
passed
to him.
away.
Remember we talked about Fame earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Fame is what drove him crazy. He did not feel like he deserved it. And this is what happens when you get adulation. I felt it before, right? You know, when things started to take off for me, everybody wants to be your buddy. Everybody's calling you. You're getting messages from everybody.
Of course.
And then all of a sudden you feel just a little bit better looking. You're just a little bit better. You're a little bit taller. And then in the
Little
deeper,
tanner.
absolutely, a little more tan, a little less oil on the forehead. But you start to think, am I worthy of that adulation?
Yeah.
Everybody goes through that, right? So when you're uber famous, like Elvis was, think of all the people that have died young.
Oh, yeah.
Amy Winehouse just recently was one of them. A lot of these people just go off the deep end because fame is it's a dual-edged sword. There's things that are great about it. You might get front row seats to a big event. But at the same time, when you go to the bathroom in that event, you got people staring at your, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You got people wondering where you're at. Hey, what are you doing? How can you send me some money? Can you help me out? I need to pay my water bill. Can you send
That's
me
right.
some money? Right.
And Jake said that's another thing that is good about this is you have no time limits.
I just saw that.
We talked about this before. I said, sometimes maybe I only got a 2.5 hours worth of information to get through and that'll be it. Some days we might feel like today where I just feel like talking and we'll go a little bit longer. We're going to do the show based on what the audience is interested in and I'm interested in. We have to be interested in it together. If there's something that you want me to talk about, something you think is interesting, you can always share it with us, right? We're going to have our website up.
Tagging us on X on things.
Absolutely.
That's one thing they're really doing really good at for us
And
right now.
And then I guess we get to we'll have a website up here. We're building the website, but the reason the website will be important for this show is you'll be able to say .com. Go there and everything is there. So all the links are going to be right there. You don't have to remember what it was on X or Facebook. And if you want to watch it on Facebook and it's not there, you just hit the other link and you get on those. And if you're not on those, you can sign up. Everything is much easier when you do it this way. The radio, as much as one of my advertisers goes, well, I just don't know. I mean, I said, listen, you just have to trust me. I mean, we don't even have to do business together. I said, but just trust me. We're going to reach so many more people, both in St. Louis and around the country. It's going to totally change the operation. But I'm loyal. You've been loyal to me. I'll be loyal to you. We're going to do this in the right manner. We're going to do this. I'm not looking to take money from you if we don't have any benefit.
Yeah.
Right.
What would be the point of that?
What would be the point of it? Right. You're just going to get mad at me and we're friends. I don't want to do that. But what we are going to do is we're going to build a show that is entertaining enough and information is going to flow in a manner that makes people want to gravitate towards it. We're going to bring in people that are real. We're not looking to work within a circle of people like some of these big entertainers do. It's just all the same people, all in the same circle over and over and over again. And then you recognize their face. So it makes you think that they're onto something good. Just like we did yesterday with Sandra McDowell and Andy Polachek. These are just normal people. They're in the arena of politics. They have great things to say. I find them very entertaining. I think you'll find them very entertaining. But we'll do all of these different things to make sure that you have a good time when you spend your time with us. And last but not least, and then we'll end the show. If you watch it live, great. I like the doing things live, right? Once I got a hold of live, it's just changed my opinion on how we should be doing things. I love it live. I would never change it for the world. And if they say, Rob, you should only do podcasting, but it's not live, I don't even know if I can do it on not live anymore. I get inside my own head, right? You say one word wrong, like start over, do it again.
All right, go back to the beginning.
I do this. When I shoot the videos. I was shooting one the other night, just promoting the show. I mean, my neighbors had to think I had lost my mind. I'm outside my neighbors. There's a big water retention area, and these people are sitting out on their patio in their screen-in porch, and I'm probably 200 yards away from them, but my voice carries. And I'm doing this, and I must have read that thing 25 times because I'm like, I could do it just a little bit better, and I start doing. I don't want to go through that anymore. We'll do things live, and then if you want to see it again, it'll be all over the place. You can watch it all day long. When I was first on the air, it was from 8 to 10 o'clock at night in St. Louis. When I left, I started running into people at events. They're like, man, where'd you go? I used to listen to you. I was, there'd be truck drivers or this, that, and the other. I said, I didn't have a chance to say goodbye. I didn't have a chance. It was not my decision. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. And we went from there. But they found me. And people are going to find me here when we get into.
Someone just said right here, just a second on YouTube said, I just found out you're no longer on Real Talk. Is the podcast done from 9 to 12 as before? Yes.
9 to 12.
You want to kind of elaborate a little bit for people that are just joining us?
So I won't get into the radio show.
Yeah, you don't have to get into the situation.
The show.
Where we are at now.
Yeah, the show will be from 9 to noon. It'll be on, last time we'll say it, but Rumble, YouTube, X, and Facebook. We're going to show it'll be on Spotify as well. We'll have it up on iTunes, and then we're going to show clips on all of those platforms, plus Instagram and plus TikTok. So when the media operation begins to work, I've been told by people in the industry that I'm a clip machine because I speak fast and I start to move and I grab people's attention. So that is really the world that is going on. If you're paying attention to the big players in the game, they work it off of clips. Joe Rogan does 3 hours on his show, just like I'm doing. And then he has people that go, oh, this little clip right here with this interview was fantastic. Or what you said right here was so good. They clip that out. They spend money to advertise it throughout the social media sites. And then all of a sudden you don't have to listen to 3 hours, or people that have never heard of the show or what we're doing might get a clip and go, oh, I kind of like that. And then now they're finding us. Okay. So we haven't even begun the advertising. This is all organic from people that have found us however they found us.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Very exciting show. I'm excited for tomorrow.
Right on. All right, everybody. That's all we got for you today. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on the Robb Carter Show. Have a great day, everybody.